on a disk floating through space with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE and welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what Arya Stark did to Lord Walder. Tonight I'm in a debate and Brainy Beaver, or a frog apparently, is going to look after, so I'm just going to pass you over to Brainy Frog. Beaver thing below me there.
Hello, and as I've said before, they do not have a frog yet, or they have a frog, clearly. They don't have a beaver. I will lobby them as best I can, but I'm not an animation expert, so I think that's for people who know what they're doing. But beyond that, everybody, I think a lot of people know who I am. You all know who Fight are, and English is apparently not my it's not my strong suit today. So that said, we got Faroah Pharms here, and we're going to just why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, that's me. Geocentricist, flat earther. That's it.
Yeah, and today, okay, perfect. And we got Faroah here. So today, I believe the subject matter is children and whether it's morally right to be teaching them about gravity and flat Earth, and I imagine that whole kit and caboodle. So yeah. I'm not sure how far that extends out to as far as how much stuff is engulfed in that, but that was the gist, the way it was given to me. So that's the way I'm giving it to all of you. And that said, I think we can jump right into it. So I wonder who should we start with? You know what? Let's start with Faroah. We can give him the first comment here and the first start making your case, Faroah, for why it would be inappropriate or appropriate to teach them either or. Please.
Yeah, well, this came about because you Fight a Flat Earthers in a debate, someone off Twitter, and they had a little tiff on Twitter, and Fight a Flat Earthers accusing him of being a child abuser because he has taught his son or explained to his son his views on a flat Earth. And I'm not too sure exactly the specifics of what those are, exactly what he said. But yeah, we're just gonna talk about whether it's moral to express your views of a possible geocentric Earth to children. And me having children myself, I'd say that it is on the basis that we see the heliocentric model as a mass deception, and as such, it would be an injustice for us to not explain our true views.
Okay.
There's not really any other...
I understand what you're saying, and because you feel strongly about that you see that as right, but the main reason I see it as something that should be kept away from children, in so much as trying to teach them that it could possibly be a truth, is because to believe that the flat Earth is a thing, you have to believe that everybody is lying to you. And to instill that kind of perception onto a child that everyone is lying to you and everything is a lie, I think is extremely damaging, especially when children are very vulnerable to picking up on a way they should perceive the world. And I don't think that's a natural way to look at the world. And that's why I think it's damaging to children to tell them that. Whether you believe that it's true or not, they're going to go through their whole life, school, their first jobs, and they are going to be the outsider. They are going to be the one that is pointed at and laughed at because they are saying that the Earth's flat and they think everyone's lying to them. And then that can lead to behavioral issues and problems at school, and there's so much that I think is, besides the fact that there's a debate on the physics, keeping it away from a child because of their mental development, I think is important.
Speaking to a child about it and explaining your views doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to grow up and believe it. And secondary to that, I think your assumption that people that believe in a geocentric model will get laughed. I mean, I've been into this for like 5-6 years now, easy, and I haven't been laughed at by anyone. I spoke to many people, including yourself. So
Yeah.
I mean,
You're not a child, though, are
the
you?
only people that have laughed at me, the only people that have laughed at me are people that are from your channel who are Globers who actively seek out to view this material, which is, you know, again, that's a
Okay.
bit of a strange
Now,
dichotomy to me. But either way,
okay.
coming to the thing with children, if they're so susceptible to perception of reality, now what I'm saying is that when you're talking about a natural way to view the world, we don't view the world that we live in, the society that we've built and that is built around us, as being what is naturally meant to be here. This is something that we've created, and that is a mass deception. So explaining that there is a possibility of there being a mass deception, I don't see how you can say there's possibly anything wrong with that.
See, now, one of the reasons why I don't think parents should speak to their children about it specifically is because to them, you are going to be the one telling the truth. And to give a child that perception of the world, that everyone is lying to them because you think it is a deception. I think if as flat earthers you all believe it so strongly and it's so obvious, then people will come to realize it on their own. And I don't think it's something that should be kind of shown to a child as a possibility and then that warp their thinking towards everything else. And the thing is, as a child, as an adult, you might not have been laughed at by your peers and stuff, but children are fucking horrible, and children will get laughed at and, you know, be bullied and picked on because children are horrible.
I think people are horrible in general, to be honest.
That can happen in a whole number of different circumstances. You know, you could be born with something that someone picks on or develop something. So I feel like that's neither here nor there, really. Like I say, me myself, having been through education, knowing this stuff that I know and expressing it openly with a number of different people, I've never been ridiculed or more. The only time that's happened is when you've claimed that I've agreed with everything you said, and I haven't. But other than that, I've never been.
It did certainly seem like that in the last debate, but we can certainly go over some of those points in a bit. But,
I mean, when you say, you know, like the parent is the person that the child looks up to for truth and stuff, how would you, as us seeing this society and this world system that we live in as a deception, how would you say that it's then okay to, I don't know, tell children that Santa Claus is real and that he comes around and jumps through everyone's chimney and visits all good children in one single night? How would you justify that deception, putting that onto a child?
Because there are social norms, and the social norm of suspending disbelief that a bit of magic comes round at the darkest time of the year is just something to help, you know, children cope and make it a bit magical for Christmas. My kid's 10, and I'm trying to say it not too loud because my daughter might hear, but he figured out a couple of years ago
why would children need to have something to help them cope? Like, this is just life. Why would children need something to help them cope with what?
It's not to make them cope. It's more about just putting a bit of magic into that particular time of year, because, you know, that time of year is the darkest, coldest time of the year. And what's wrong with giving the kids a little bit of magic? And as I was about to say, you know, my kid's only 10, and he figured out, you know, a couple of years ago that Santa and Tooth Fairy and all that wasn't real. And he wasn't, you know, that was something he figured out on his own. And just, if you are saying to your kid, yeah, of course Santa's real, he comes down the chimney, that's not the same as saying everyone's lying to you and the earth is flat and the whole of society is a deception. That's a little bit different. In fact, it's a lot different. I do understand the parallels.
That the whole of society is an entire deception like that. I don't think that is.
The thing is, to think the earth is flat,
really doing that.
To think the earth is flat, you have to believe that the whole of society is a deception. Because if the earth is flat, everybody is lying to you.
As an intelligent adult, but I don't think you'd put that onto a child. Same way you wouldn't put, you know, the gravitational equations on a 7-year-old. You know, that'd be stupid. It would be meant to understand it. So
depends on that child's particular mathematical level. I've been teaching my son algebra, you know, for a good few years, and you know, I teaching maths that's above his level, and I'm involving my kids in experiments and stuff that I'm doing just because I want them to be able to figure out the world on their own, rather than just saying, look, everyone could be lying to you and the earth could be flat. And when there is no basis behind something like the earth is flat, there is no evidence to say that can be actually backed up. Honestly, there has never been a flat earth claim in regards to evidence for a flat earth that hasn't been thoroughly debunked before I came onto the scene 9 months ago. I am just repeating the same things that have been said by previous debunkers, because there is nothing new to debunk about the flat earth, because it's all been debunked. There is no evidence that stands up to any kind of interrogation in the slightest.
Well, I would disagree, and if there wasn't, and I don't think your channel would still be running and gaining popularity. It was just regurgitating the same shit.
There's a big reason I've just changed the name of my channel, and I'm going to be tackling a lot more than just flat Earth, because I've been doing this for 9 months, and I am repeating myself already because there isn't any new arguments. The reason why
anyway, this is a bit of a different subject, so this kind of freshes it up. Yeah. But anyways, back to the children bit. I think, as we see it, as the whole of this society that we've built and the whole world system being a deception, I don't think you justify giving children a bit of magic in the darkest time of year so that they can cope. I don't see that as a reasonable excuse to be mass deceiving children. And because it's a societal norm, i.e. consensus, I mean, it's a societal norm that we all think that the Earth is a massive sphere floating through space. We all know that. That's a societal norm. But we're saying that following societal norms isn't necessarily the correct way to be going about things. And as such, I wouldn't say that, the excuse of, we need to give children a bit of magic in the darkest time of year, that doesn't even make any sense. How does that justify mass deception?
Well, Farah, where do you live? I want to ask one question. Where do you live in the world? You don't have to give me your location exactly, but sorry?
Southwest UK.
Sorry, the last part I'm not hearing.
Southwest UK.
I got. Oh, UK.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I was. Yeah. Okay. So you guys have a very dreary, dark winter too. Because I was going to say, if you live in an area where you don't get the real dark, long winter. I mean, I leave for work in the dark. I come home from work in the dark. It's a very dismal time. So, anyways, that's fine. It's not my debate. I just asked. Go ahead, please.
So, I mean, I do understand.
Definitely,
I do understand your point.
In the winter.
I do understand your point of, is it okay to mass deceive children? And
I mean, for me personally, anyway, I say for us. For me personally, the deception is very real, right? In primary school, for instance, right? Nowadays, a lot of the primary schools are turning into academies, so I can't really talk on a lot of those. But in my generation, I'm 25, so for the sort of people that are around my generation that I speak to quite regularly about this stuff, and different people that I speak to, I always ask them in primary school, what is it that you remember singing in assembly? Most people went to a C of E school, which is a Church of England school, so they think that it's coming from some sort of a religious authority. And I go, what song do you remember singing? And every single one of them, without fail, will say, he's got the whole world in his hands. And I say, did that used to give you a mental image of God? And they were like, yeah. Every single one of them sung that from the ages of 5 to about 10, which, at that point is half of your life. Where you've been singing this song.
You guys sung that in your schools?
I think it was kind of just standard. I'm 36 and
everybody's talking over each other.
So I'm 36 and I exactly the same. It wasn't even a Christian school or anything I went to, but in the morning in assemblies we would sit down and sing God songs. It was just kind of what you did. I don't think it.
Did he give you some sort of? Did you sing that song there yet?
That's been always separated here. Interesting.
Yeah, got the whole world in his hands.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we sang that.
But Pharaoh, they don't do that everywhere. They, just to add that they don't do that everywhere.
The majority of schools in England around the last before the generation of academies and things, CFE schools, And like Fight the Flat Earth said, he didn't go to a CV school, and they still sung songs. So the majority of schools in England, at least, definitely did. All right. So you're, age of 5 singing this song, and you've got this mental image of God holding the world in his hands, and you go to your first science lesson, and you learn the very basics, nothing else, just the very basics, and that is that you're a big spinning, floating ball in the middle of space, and you come about here by total accident, and you're just floating through infinite vastness. And this is you. Tell me that's not a deception on the same level. Where does that leave your brain?
Well, like me, I don't think I ever believed in a God or anything. Even I even went to Sunday school and everything just because it was something that you did.
What I'm saying. No, so did I. And I didn't believe in any sort of creator or God for many years. But that's on the basis that you have that sort of deception pushed to you, where your brain, unless you're some sort of retard, at that age, right, you go into your class, you learn that this is the reality, the science, that we're just a big spinning, floating sphere. And then all this God squad nonsense about he's got the whole world in his hands is all bullshit. Now, that is a split in your mind between what's real and what's fake. And at that age, you do not have a choice about what choice you make. Your brain does it for you subconsciously. That's where the deception lies.
I'm going to agree.
It's the same place that
I think religion is a big deception. Sorry,
Faroah, you're starting to ramble here, buddy. We gotta try to get into.
I do agree that religion. I think that religion is a big deception, and to teach anyone that it is wrong. But I can't ever disprove.
I didn't say that.
But I'm just saying that that's what I feel, because even though I went through.
You said you agreed, and then you said that.
Agreed. Like no, I agree. I agree that I agree that about the deception is what I agree, right? So, but I can't ever disprove a God, right? But I can quite easily disprove a flat Earth. So then I think.
So what you're telling me is you agree. Hang on a sec. You're telling me you agree that there is a deception at primary school level as to where religion and scientism stands.
I've never said that the education system is perfect in its implementation in any form. But
no, if there is a design deception, then there is a massive problem that we have it.
I don't think there's a design deception. I think it was a Farah, stop. I don't think there's a design deception. I think it's a natural evolution of the way schools have been created, because schools were controlled by the church, but that all started going away, and more now schools aren't doing that. Schools have separated from church as much as possible in a lot of ways. We can't really blame the way that the education system evolved and say that that's a deception, but what it has done is given us the ability to figure out what the world is on our own if we've actually paid attention. Okay, so I'm never going to disagree that I think there's been a lot of deceptions in the world, but I don't know if they're born of trying to control people in the way that you think. I don't agree with religion, because I just think it was a way people used to deal with things, but I can never disprove a God, so I don't think I'm going to attack religion, but I can disprove a flat Earth. So then to think that a flat Earth is real, okay, all right, that's wrong, and I will argue with it. But then to try and teach a child that a flat Earth is real in any way will then really warp the way that they are thinking, because it's something that they then have to believe that absolutely everyone is lying to them. Not just people to do with religion, but everybody, every government, every teacher, every scientist, every pilot, every boat captain, every politician, they're all lying to you. And that's a dangerous thing to put onto a child.
So when you're, 4 or 5 years old, and your brain makes a subconscious decision about what's real and what these God songs mean, who did the child think is deceiving the church type people into believing their God stuff? What does their brain tell them about that?
Well, I can only speak from the experience I've had with my children, and both my kids have asked me about, wait, is God real? I've broached those subjects, and I've told them that I don't think it is. They can make the decision. I've told them, here is evidence that I think, but that's just my experience with my children. I don't think there is.
What you just said there about explaining to your children that this is your opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Now that's exactly how I would explain my views of a geocentric model. It's my opinion, my views.
That's where it's different, because there is a difference between opinions and facts. All right. I can never disprove that there is a God. I can explain why I don't think there is a God, and why I think we can just explain the universe with the physical laws that we know and understand. But I will never tell my child outright, no, you can't believe in a God, because I could never make that decision for them. I would personally hope that they were smart enough to figure out that there isn't a God. But with regards to the flat earth, I will absolutely say, no, there isn't a flat earth, because here is the 100% evidence and proof that the earth is not flat. It's a ridiculous thing to think it, because all of this has to be true, and none of it is. And, I go back to the point that I've never come across a flat earth argument that can't be debunked.
That kind of pressurization there seems a bit like, forced. Your views seem a bit forced there. I mean, I've never had the heliocentric model proved to me, a globe proved to me.
I can guarantee you have, but you just haven't understood exactly what you were having explained to you. Because one of the things that I hear from flat earthers all the time is that...
This is my downfall last time, is that I was super, super humble, and I allowed you to try and fully explain what it was you was on about. And in me doing that, you just assumed that I'd somehow agreed with what you were saying.
Well, it was more from the words that you were saying. But my point stands that the flat earthers constantly say, one of the big things that they always say is that, oh, well, there's so many holes in the globe model. But the fact is there isn't any holes in the globe model. None at all. And I've never been, you laugh because you think that there is a hole in the globe model. But what that shows is that you don't understand what the globe model is. About what, sorry?
The borehole, and just I don't know, volcanoes and canyons and stuff.
Right, okay. But you know what I mean by holes in the globe model. The things that flat earthers think don't make sense. And all of those are just born from a misunderstanding of what the physics are. The fact is that gravity is a thing, and it doesn't just act in an up and down direction. It is mass attracting mass, and for that to be a fact, the Earth cannot be flat.
This is the main.
It really is as simple as that.
For me, gravity is a mental construct, and I said this last time, and we went on to what your best proof for gravity was. Moved on from Cavendish because kind of conceded that that's not an experiment really. And
I never conceded that.
The Schehallien experiment or something.
Yeah, Schehallien experiment, which is another excellent evidence of mass attracting mass. And
we are
that experiment, I've never heard of it.
Sorry?
We are starting to sway, just so you guys know a little bit. Just keep that in mind.
Well,
I don't know how.
I think
transition.
I think we've covered what we want to say about kids, and
okay, yeah.
Well, I think the last thing that I want to say about that though is that I understand, as you're a flat earther and you feel so passionately that this is the truth, that you think it's okay to tell your children that. But I really don't, because it comes with so many other things. I mean,
that can't be the assumption that I'm outrightly telling them that the Earth is most definitely flat, and that's a certain point. In the same way that you would say, God is definitely not real.
Any flat Earth doctrine that is presented to kids as fact is going to lead to that conclusion for a child, and that comes with so many other things that I think it's damaging to them, and that's why
There's many things that we do nowadays that might be damaging to them. I mean, I've had the handicap of not really being able to. Well, I've consciously not mentioned it, but how about, I mean, I got a letter through the other week saying that children at the age of like 5, 6 are going to be getting taught about transgender relationships, etc., and what it means to be transgender, etc. So do you think there's any sort of damaging effects of explaining to a child of that kind of age that the genitalia you possess might not actually match up to what gender you really are? Do you think there's any sort of damaging, this is a point blank question, at that sort of age, do you think there's any sort of damaging implications to that one?
I think it's the way that it's presented in that case. If it's presented as there are people in society that think they're in the wrong body for whatever reason, and this is a thing, and just making them aware that that is a thing because that is part of our society. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know if you have to go into details or anything about it. That's that I think that's to do with the parents and having discussions, but definitely nothing is wrong with letting children know that there are people, that this is part of society. I don't think I'd have an issue with that, but I mean, that's a whole other discussion.
I don't know, I feel like it all ties into the same societal mass deception that we all are encapsulated in slavery.
I don't think there's any deception behind really transgender and things like that. That's just, that's a person doing whatever. It's not a deception as to the shape of the world and the world that we live in. It's not telling you that everyone is lying to you, and that the laws of physics are not what we've been taught. Why do you have such an issue with gravity when I've presented you so much evidence that gravity is a thing?
Well, there was mainly the Shahadian experiment that I remember, and really I was just trying to wrap my head around exactly what it was you were trying to explain. I think for the most part, with the plumb bob and
basically the plumb bob was attracted to the mass of the mountain.
Getting the mass of the mountain, and then I'm like, well, how could they possibly have calculated this? Oh, well, they did it over 300 days. I'm like, what? How the fuck does that possibly have any sort of specific measurement to it that you can say, that's...
Because you can get an average.
We can attribute that to gravity. An average of an average of an average.
That's what an average is.
Doesn't seem very fucking specific to me.
The point is
you've got the average mass of the mountain on the average movement of the thing over 300 days. That's pathetic.
It was a good observation, a very good observation that came very close to within the current accepted standards.
That there's not a constant. I mean, I don't know where this mountain is. I don't know if you do. But
it's in Scotland.
What's
it's quite close to me,
there's not a... Well, can you verify if there's a constant, a relatively consistent wind in any particular direction?
I mean, you can check weather maps for anywhere you want at any time of day. Yeah.
Well, if we're basing the entire force of gravity,
but that's why
being
it was
able
done,
to be explained in this one experiment.
I mean, that's why it was done over so many days and
so many
observations
over 300 odd days.
Yeah, at night, at day.
What's to say that it's not just an average of the amount of wind? Average wind.
That was why they did the observation during. They could see what the attraction was when there was wind and when there wasn't wind. And they could see how much wind there was, and they can then remove that from the equations and the data when you can see that there is still an attraction with or without the wind, and the wind will just increase or decrease what the movement of the plumb bob is. That's the idea of taking an average. You can still see what the actual attraction is compared to all the other things that are happening to it.
No, so I would have assumed that the data would have been collected and then presented in a whole. They would have just presented the average. Yep, this is the gravitational attraction.
The data is free for anyone to find and look at. But
all right, we have to drop a link.
The main point of the Shishelian experiment is that it backed up other observations. Like Cavendish, like the fact that mass will literally cause an increase in attraction when the only thing that's happening is you're adding mass.
Well, we have to take
did I show you the
individual experiment? Saying that it backs up other experiments which are known to be BS is not really saying a lot.
well, that's the thing. You say the Cavendish is known to be BS, and it's really not. We can go into the Cavendish in a bit, but because someone in my community has actually done it recently. But did I show you the video of the scale with the weight underneath?
Yep.
All right, let me just show that again so the audience can see it. Bear with me.
Between the lead balls. First, we weigh a small lead pyramid to measure the force of attraction between it and the Earth. Its weight is 152.166 grams. Now we move the heavy lead ball under the scale, adding its mass to the mass of the Earth. The weight has increased by 1/1000th of a gram, which represents the attraction between the pyramid and the ball. When the mass under the pyramid got bigger, the force of attraction did too.
So what's the issue with that?
What the issue with that proving gravity?
Showing that there's the only thing that increased was the mass, yet there was an increase in the weight. So in other words, there was an increase in the force acting on the mass of the weight hanging down. And how does that not show that mass attracts mass?
Well, it doesn't. It shows that there's scales and two objects which have some kind of an interaction. Saying that just the mass of an object attracts the mass of an object.
What kind of interaction? I mean, that clearly shows. I mean, the one thing is that
You
they're
tell me
lead,
the
so
only
it's
interaction you're giving me,
diamagnetic.
the only possibility you're giving me is that the entire mass is attracting the entire mass.
Well,
That's the only possibility
can you
your
give me
brain
another?
has.
Can you give me an alternative hypothesis?
What the interaction between molecular structures of a metal variety? There could be.
Well, they're lead, so
many,
it's
you know,
diamagnetic.
I mean, the scales themselves. What scales are they? Because
I think they're fisherman scales.
They
I actually, someone did send me a link to some scales like that. They're about like £1,400 to buy. They're very accurate scales. They're scales. That's they work by measuring the force pulling down.
Different types of scales can be interrupted by different types of things. So again,
Okay, so tell me what
instruments.
you need to.
The knowledge.
You need to, rather than just saying, well, it could be
Phone
interrupted,
signals.
you need to explain. Right, wait.
A lot of point digital scales, jewelry scales can be interrupted by phone signals and other types of electromagnetic frequencies.
We hold on, we can't just keep buckshotting this. This is exactly what Fight's getting onto here. That's kind of what Russian Vids does, and that's how he avoids answering things, to be honest with you.
Right, okay, so
but let's just one thing at a time here, guys.
So if you're saying that there's something interrupting the signals, then you need to explain to me how adding a lead weight underneath interrupted the signals of calibration and everything within the scales. What was the interruption? What was the physical interaction that caused that?
Well, it might not have been the lead balls. I saw there was a cut, and then it went to the scales real close on a zoom in, and then moved. All I'm saying is your knowledge of the instruments that are used isn't good enough to be able to tell me that this instrument demonstrates gravity.
It's a scale. It measures weight. That's its job.
But what scale? You're saying you think it's a fish scale. I'm saying that could be interrupted by different types of things. You're saying what? Like you don't know if there's anything that could possibly do it. Well, you're meant to be telling me because it's your experiment. You're showing me. I'm not meant to tell you what's meant to be interrupted.
The only thing that's added there is a lead weight. That's the only thing that's added, nothing else. So if you're saying that is causing an interruption, then you kind of need to explain how.
I'm saying many things. You know, that dude might have a freaking pager in his pocket. I don't know if them scales are definitely fish scales. Can you verify that? Are you definitely sure of that? You said you had the link sent to you, but all I'm saying is you're making me run and saying that this is real complex. But all I'm saying is your knowledge of the instruments used is not good enough to be able to say to me that this instrument shows gravity is a mass attracting mass real thing. Here you go, blam. You don't know how them scales work even. So what am I meant to say?
Yes, I know how scales work. They measure a weight. That's how scales work.
I said you don't know how those scales work. You don't know if they can be
work the same
interrupted
as
by
all
electromagnetic
scales.
frequencies. You didn't say that they're definite. As what scales?
They are scales. They measure weight. And
there's many different types of scales that measure weight.
And I don't think
I didn't realize that.
this is just a lot of ifs and buts that you're giving here. You need to
No, it's not an if or but. I'm just saying that
because the only thing that was added
you need to be
was
able
a lead weight.
You need to be able to verify.
Okay. Slow down. Everybody slow.
It's literally just a lead weight added, nothing else. That's my point.
Yeah, and added to what? A pair of scales that you're not too sure how they work.
What do you mean? It's scales. They measure. It's not even digital. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Right. Bear with me.
Between the lead balls.
Right. So it's not even digital. So we're going to
where's the level so there's nothing else being added?
Well, it's putting the camera close to show you what's going on, and here is where they add the lead weight and the weight, and it goes up. So
convenient.
Right. Oh, so I mean, getting away from the argument of it could be fake because of editing, it's a mechanical.
I'm not even fake. I'm just saying there is no proof.
Let me get to my point. It's a mechanical scale. I'm pretty sure you can see the serial, the make and model of it there. Where is it? P163. Someone Google if they know what something P163, what scale this is. I'm going to assume that it's a mechanical scale, literally working, with a mechanical pulling down, increasing the numbers by the force being pulled down. There's nothing digital, nothing that could be interrupted by a pager or this looks like it was done in the 70s, so ancient pager technology. And as the Snark has just pointed out, it's some of it's pretty repeatable, and some of that I kind of remember doing at school. Probably not primary school, maybe high school.
Fuck, they haven't changed at all, but they're newer a little bit though. That's the only thing, but they're still like almost identical.
So, yeah, the fact that it is not a digital scale removes any. It could be another kind of signal causing it to change. And the fact is that's just one observation. I can then give you the Shellyan experiment. I can then show you Cavendish. And I can... there's actually a whole bunch more kind of weighing the world experiments that have been done on a similar kind of scale. And the fact is that when you do the Cavendish, as BM Furball recently has, you get the same answer all the time. Just because the answer has become more accurate doesn't mean it's changed. So, assuming for 1 minute that wasn't faked with editing and the adding of the lead weight underneath... Well, I suppose discussing this, you have to make that assumption when you're talking about it.
Considering...
Right.
Just so everybody knows, they haven't made that model since 1980.
Right.
So it wouldn't even. The computers were just like basically Commodore was as good as it got, and that thing doesn't have a computer in it.
Okay, so just make the assumption that this isn't faked. To just go along with the conversation for me for a minute. What other explanation is there then that adding that lead weight? And I remind you that lead is diamagnetic, so it's not attracting anything with magnetism or anything. What else could be causing the scales to increase in weight?
So fucking went over it. I was looking at the scales. The last point of the measurements there was 0.01 of a milligram.
Let's go back to. I'll put it back up. 2 secs.
Maximum 160, I think it was.
All right.
160 grams.
So it's the 3 decimal places. Oh, turn on.
Its weight is 152.166 grams. Now we move the heavy lead ball under the scale, adding its mass to the mass of the Earth.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, what is the lead?
The weight has
lead
increased by
like
1,000th of a gram.
All right. Sorry, what did you say, Farah?
I was wondering what that plate was that the lead ball was moved on. But yeah, I mean, this experiment, you know, I just have to be done in real time or some shit.
Okay.
Some sort of verification. I've personally never done it in school or nothing.
How about you get hold of a scale and do it yourself?
Like there's about £1,400 in it. If you get your subscribers to sponsor me, I'll do it. I promise.
Well, I'm sure that there's other ways of getting hold of cheap scales. I mean, I'm having to speak to the council to be able to do a pendulum.
I've got some cheap scales, but this is why I brought it up, because you know scales can be interrupted by all sorts of different things. It depends what scales they are. It wasn't like some sort of joke that I was coming up with. You know?
No, I don't run with those. Like, I'm focusing a lot of my arguments at the moment on the fact that we can demonstrate that the Earth is moving. And one of the things that I'm doing is speaking to a building manager in Fife Council to use a stairwell, a local block of flats, to do a pendulum experiment to calculate my distance to the North Pole and my latitude and stuff. You know, I'm trying to do my own experiments. I'm still waiting.
You're doing what with a local councillor to do what in a block of flats?
Well, if you have a pendulum swinging, right, and you see the amount of drift over an hour, you can actually figure out what your latitude is and your distance to the North Pole. So I've found somewhere that will let me do this, hang a big pendulum all the way down a block of flats, and let it swing for, well, hopefully to get an hour. I don't know if it will swing for that long, but however long I can make it swing for. And then I can measure the angle of the drift, and then I can actually do some calculations to figure out my distance to the North Pole and figure out what my latitude is. And I'm going to do that and see if I can actually calculate the correct things. And that is a demonstration of the Earth moving. But my point is that that's one of the things that I'm doing as my own experiments. And I keep suggesting things to flat earthers that they could do, because they just go, oh, I don't believe that. It needs to be done in front of me. Well, why don't you figure out a way to do it then? It's simple. If you don't trust that because you haven't done it yourself, why don't you figure out a way to do it?
Because I think gravity is a mental construct. I don't need to experiment with something.
See, you think it's a mental construct, so you don't have to do the experiment.
Construct. Indeed, yeah.
When the experiment can actually demonstrate that it's not just a mental construct. If you think it's a mental construct, then doing the experiment yourself would either confirm or deny that. So to not do the experiment because you think it's a mental construct is just to deny that it could be anything else.
Quite possibly. I mean, I'll do the experiment. How about that?
Yeah, do the experiment. I would love to see it. If I can actually help in any way, you know, I can try and help you figure out a way to do it. You know, there is ways to do experiments to try and figure out the things that we keep having these arguments about. Right? But
yeah, but I don't observe mass attracting mass. So why would I possibly do an experiment to try and prove that mass attracts mass?
Because the experiment would be an observation of mass attracting mass. And you say you don't observe mass attracting mass, but when we're talking about gravity,
you know,
right? You say you don't observe mass attracting mass, right? But what happens every time something falls to the ground? Is that not an observation of mass attracting mass?
No.
What's it an
No,
observation
that's
of?
exactly what I was just about to get on. Something falling to the ground.
And why?
I think you know my position on this, and the only way that you've managed to go about this is reverting back to mass attracting mass. And it's that for anything to fall, it has to first be lifted, and all it's doing is returning to its natural resting place.
Yeah, but then you need to explain the mechanism
There
behind
isn't
why it
anything
is
you can give
returning.
me. Yeah, the force is whatever energy was put into it. I don't know if you want to call it potential energy, possibly, or whatever, but the force that was put into it is whatever energy was put into lifting it out of its natural resting position.
Yeah.
Usually,
But
dead ground.
We go
Or
back
something.
to the question of what is then causing it to move in the direction back towards the ground. You can say that there's been force and energy put into it.
Well, that's where
but
the energy. That's where the energy
what
comes
is
from.
deciding it to go down
What you're then
towards the
asking
ground?
is why does
Why not in a
energy
different
innately come from
direction?
ground?
Why not to the left or to the right or up? Why is it going
Well,
down?
that's a totally different question, though.
No, it's the same
The
question.
question you're now asking. The question you're now asking is why does energy innately come from ground, not left, right, or up? Why is it innately all things come from ground? That's different to why is gravity pulling stuff down to Earth? That's a totally different question.
No, it's not. It's actually the same question.
Why is all energy innately at ground? Why do things innately rest at ground and need to be lifted in order to be dropped? There's a question.
I wouldn't say that all energy
question.
is innately at the ground when I look at lightning. I mean, you're dancing around the question of what is the actual mechanism that is causing it and making it continue to accelerate towards the ground.
That's one of the only things you can really think of.
Acceleration. Right. Okay. Let me put it to you like this. Okay. Acceleration requires. Right. Fire. Stop a second. Well, let me explain it to you like this. Acceleration requires a constant force being applied, and not just a force and then it just does what it does. There needs to be a constant force being applied to cause that acceleration to keep happening. So what mechanism is the constant force? Where is that coming from?
Well, the acceleration doesn't keep happening. It has to have first been lifted. We've agreed that. So that's a different energy in total because it's moving in a different direction.
No, that's not what I asked. When something is accelerating, that means its speed is continuing to increase. It's a change in speed over time, okay? So, and for that to happen, there needs to be a constant force applied, not just a one burst of force, and then it does its thing. So where is the constant application of force coming from? What is the mechanism behind the acceleration? I put fuel in my car and then put my foot down. It causes explosions in the engine, which is the force that makes me accelerate forward. More explosions, more force, more going forward. Where is the force that is causing the increase in speed coming from?
Well, I mean, the vocabulary of just calling things a force. I mean, I think what you would be describing for me would be the natural release of whatever you would call the potential energy. So as it's been lifted, it has an expression of how it's going to return to its natural resting position of wherever it was lifted from. And if you perceive that to be increasing over a period of time, then that's what it is. What causes that is the same thing that causes things, all of this energy to have to be risen from the base, from the ground, from the foundation in the first place. First, you have to answer that question.
No. I think you've missed what my point is. There is that
quite possibly
the application of force has to be something that is happening all of the time. All right. If you are saying that to lift up this YouTube button, off the ground, I'm putting the force into it, and then when I'm letting it go, it's putting the force back in. Why is that force continuing to be put back into it?
Well, there's nothing being continually put back in anything. You just lifted it up, and then from there, it's got a natural progression of what it's going to do. If you let go, it's going to return back to where it came from.
What's causing the natural progression? Yeah, it's not simple because you're not asking the question
taking it
why.
out of where it was.
And
it's you. There's nothing but you taking it out of its natural resting place.
Once
so
I've
only
let it
you
go,
causing the progression.
once I've let it go,
Right,
I am
which
no
is the
longer
point.
doing anything to it, and it is simply accelerating on its own, which means that there's some kind of force being applied to it, because F equals ma. Do you deny that F equals ma? Force equals mass times acceleration? Basic equation of physics? Farah? Hello?
We might have lost him. Faroah. I think everything was cordial. I don't think we chased him off.
Oh, this is...
Oh, my apologies.
sorry.
There he is. Nope. We lost you for it there, Faroah.
Mm.
Okay. Right. So...
Is he back?
Yeah, he is back.
Yeah, I'm here.
So yeah, my point is that acceleration requires a force to be applied constantly, not just once I've let it go, then the force is winding back into it. There has to be something causing an acceleration. First
Whatever
off,
motion you're witnessing.
Let me ask a basic question. Do you know the difference between speed and acceleration? Like, could you define one? Right, sorry, yeah, define speed and then define acceleration for me.
Well,
I don't think he's looking for necessarily like a dictionary definition either. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I hate these ones as some kind of test of science.
He's
not looking for. I don't think he's looking for a definition like out of a dictionary. I think he's just looking for your understanding of what the difference between a speed and an acceleration is. We'll accept layman terms. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I just want to know that that we're actually talking about the same thing. So, can you just define speed and then just define acceleration?
Well, we're not talking about speed at all. In this, really,
that's what I'm hoping is the case. All right. Well, can you define acceleration for me?
Well, your definition of what you're perceiving when you're viewing what you again perceive as a gravitational force is an object accelerating over a period of time, over a certain distance, and yeah, that's acceleration. But my point is that whatever you're perceiving the object to do is irrelevant because it's just going to do that. You've caused it to do that. That is the force that you're seeing is your conscious decision to have moved it. That's the only thing that caused it to move.
I want to ask a question one way just to try to see if this pushes it in a different direction a little bit. Just all I would ask is oh, fuck, it totally left my mind while I was talking about that. You guys continue. I'll fucking... Stupid octopus. It's because his brain is stuck in the back here.
Squid. Yeah, so... I think my point of the fact that you need a constant force is being lost somewhere because...
that's what I was going to say. Is what other force what other thing do you know of that moves without being acted upon? Like in your world at all, anything at all? Is there anything at all?
Hang on, one sec. When you pick up your little YouTube thing there, right? Where is the same constant force being observed there as when you consciously let it go? If there is a constant force,
I can feel it pushing down on my fingers. It has weight.
You can feel the weight.
I mean, this is pretty heavy.
Yeah, so you feel the material. You feel the material object. That's obvious. You feel the material object, but I don't think you can distinguish between the material object and the mass of that material object attracting to the mass of the Earth. That's not the entirety of what you're telling me you're feeling. Surely, are you telling me that without the mass attracting mass between your fingers and the Earth? You're feeling nothing. There's no sort of solid molecular structure that's going to...
No. Right, well, let me... if I do this way, I can still feel the button pushing when I'm touching it there, but there's no pressure on my finger pushing down. I can just feel the material there. When I do that...
In order to push it that way, one sec. In order to push it that way, you have to consciously press it and touch it and feel it yourself. When you hold it this way here, that you're holding it, not that way. When you hold it with your palm open, there is no conscious decision needed if you just stay like that. Whereas if you flip it the other way,
okay, but the thing is,
so that's the difference,
right? I can do this and partially lift it up, and I can feel the pressure on my fingers slightly go away. But when I'm applying no other force, I can literally feel the weight. And that would, if I put it on scales, register as a force being applied down. And that is the same force that is when I let it go, causing it to accelerate, to go from not moving to moving. You know, that was accelerating, and I wasn't touching it. But during the point that it went from there to there was still a force being applied to it because its speed was increasing.
Well, and that doesn't float when it hits the ground either. Sorry, I had to add that. It just sits on the ground, right? I mean...
Yeah. I mean, it would
it
make a
might
good
bounce.
thump.
Well, it does the same force to the ground as it did to his hand, just the ground can't tell you what it feels like.
Yeah. But, yeah, the point is that I wasn't doing
No,
anything
again,
to
it'd
it,
be
and
totally...
then it was still increasing in speed.
ridiculous for an explanation of the force of gravity and how you're just not getting the only force that's being applied here is your conscious decision to interfere with the object.
All right.
I mean, if you come with any other example of something,
let me put it to
can
you
leave
this way.
ground without a force
There's a
being applied.
tomato tree in my father-in-law's tomato plant in my father-in-law's garden. Why does one day all of a sudden one of those tomatoes decide to fall off? Where was the intervening force happening there?
So
it grew.
How did the tomato tree grow?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. That's a very good question, right? I put the seed in the ground, right, or in the pot, right? I take the seed from my tomato, I put it in the pot. How do the roots know which way to go to get water?
Yep.
Well, because they need water. Whatever. That's like how does
if you plant the seed upside down, though, it'll turn around.
How does the plant know which way to go to get the sun? Like, it's that fucking way. It needs it. It's gonna go that way. That's just how it is. You can't attribute it to gravity.
Well,
otherwise,
what
the
other explanation is there? Okay, no matter. Let me break it down for you. Okay, let me break it down for you. I put a seed in the ground. No matter the orientation I put that seed, the roots will always go down. I mean, down is where they will usually find water. All right, but
because naturally,
how does it?
That's what.
Wait. How does it know that it has to go down? Does the roots have some kind of conscious decision that it's making? Where is that decision to go down the most likely place to find water coming from? No matter the orientation, you put that seed in the ground. How does it know that down is going to be
It totally depends on what your definition of conscious would be. But yes, it needs water. And so naturally, it will most definitely find water because that's what it naturally was set out and created to do. There's no gravity involved in it finding the fucking earth underneath. That's just what it does because that's what it naturally was set out to do. You can't attribute roots finding water to gravity. That's just ridiculous.
Well,
otherwise,
no, I'm not.
Again, explains to me. Right? So the mass of the root before the stem grows, obviously, that's got a lot less mass than the roots. And so with mass attracting mass, why would the stem of a plant, or the bud or whatever you'd want to call it, the plant itself, not also grow downwards? Because it was naturally set out to seek sunlight, yeah? Because that's what it naturally does.
Yep, because once it has absorbed the nutrients it needs to then produce the flower, or the point of the things being above the ground is then so that it can create more seeds or whatever for it to fall down and be in the ground, right? So once it is got enough water, it knows that it's got to go up to create sunlight, to photosynthesize, to create seeds. It's all part of the plant's DNA.
Right,
but that initial...
We'll get to that in a minute. But the initial choice of it deciding to go upwards towards the sunlight once it's got enough nutrients and stuff, instead of following surely the mass of what's going on underneath, following the rest of the organism. When does it consciously choose to fight gravity and just go upwards to the heavens?
Well, DNA is basically programming.
So
and
it
light
does
is
have
where
some sort of
energy comes
conscious
from.
entity. Oh,
Right,
so it
but
does have some sort of conscious element.
No,
Interesting.
No, not consciousness. But my point is that the initial decision to go down to try and find
decision from non-consciousness.
that was going to be my point. Where does that decision come from? To just make the roots go down.
Well, it's the same posed question to you. Where does it decide to fight gravity and just shoot the fuck up towards heavens?
Well, because it can't just stay in the soil when it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, the roots do.
Not all roots. Roots will go continue and find water, more and more water.
Yeah, they grow and they'll find room. They will find room. Right, so yeah, they'll find water, but where's the conscious decision for it not to follow the roots and seek water and just shoot up towards the heavens?
Because once the plant reaches maturity, that's part of what it does. It grows and gets bigger, and then it needs to reproduce. And most of the ways that plants reproduce is by creating pretty flowers that bees and stuff.
But what you're telling me is it has a natural process that it needs to. It has a innate natural process that it needs to go through. So it's going to grow and it's going to grow upwards naturally because that's just what it does, because it needs to reproduce. In the same way that the roots are naturally just going to grow down because they need to find water in order to give the plant the nutrients that it needs in the first place in order to grow up, because that's
how
just
does it
naturally
know
what
the
it does.
difference between up and down to start with, though?
It doesn't need to know the difference between up and down. It just does what it does. The same way that the plant.
It does how? How does it
grow its nutrients and go?
I'm
going to go upwards because I need to reproduce. It just does what it does.
First thing it needs is
it doesn't
water,
say, "Oh,
right?
This gravity stuff's weighing me down, man. I've got enough nutrients now. I'm going to just shoot up. I've got enough strength to fight gravity." That's not what happens, is it?
Right.
It just naturally does
my initial point.
Process.
Right. How?
No.
I could have water right above the soil. Right. I could have a bowl of water sitting 2 inches above the soil, but those roots are still going to go down, whether there's water there or not. Right. And how do the roots know to go down? Because there's a force acting on them.
No, it'll grow to seek a solid foundation for whatever plant is going to obviously grow.
And how does it know which way to go to create a solid foundation? It all comes back to there has to be something making an initial decision.
The same way.
Yeah, but what is guiding that natural process?
If there's an initial decision,
how does it know what up and down is?
Okay, slow down, everybody.
It doesn't need to. Where is your assumption that it needs to know what up and down is in order to fulfill a natural process?
I'm going to steer this back to where it actually started with the tomato, because we have people asking in the live chat about this. I think what Fight was asking, and let's just go back to that, is like you said that items basically you lifted up and you've added that potential energy to it. But if a tomato grows at the top of the tree and it started up there, then who's added the potential energy? I mean. Anyways, I guess start from there.
I personally wouldn't call it necessarily potential energy. I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I was just saying that you can if you would like to. I wouldn't. Not
potential energy is not the wrong term. I mean, it's got a potential.
Exactly. What you're saying is not the wrong term.
No, I don't think it's necessarily the wrong term. Everything has potential energy, but we're asking you why an item.
We'll run with that for the minute. We'll run with that for the minute. So my explanation is right through photosynthesis and all this energy being given to the tree and the plant growing. The energy gets transmitted to the actual fruit. The fruit grows until the fruit has got too much energy for whatever is holding it to sustain it anymore, and so it does again what all things do once they either gain too much, what we'd call in this instance potential energy or whatever, or someone intervenes with a conscious decision to let something go, it returns to its natural resting position and it will go and towards ground, which we perceive as down.
But it's
just a process of energy transfer.
It always comes back to how does it know to go down?
Why do you think that a fruit has to know where it's going? That's just stupid. It just does what it does.
Right, well, okay. Obviously, the fruit doesn't need to
The-
know.
the- the-
But
the-
my
what-
point
what are you on
is,
about then? It just does what it does.
my point is,
What you're
where
actually
does
asking
the
is why do we
directional
observe everything going down? Because that's where it comes from.
Stop. Where does the directional influence come from? Right? No, not every. What,
The initial state.
Meteorites come from.
It comes from the initial state.
Meteorites
It's a
come from
return. It's
space.
a cycle. Well, I haven't ever seen one.
Does that mean they're fake?
No,
I mean,
it
did
just
you
means
not
that
look
I can't
outside
really...
recently in the Perseid meteor shower, for fuck's sake? I mean, you've got eyes.
What, did you see something come down?
I saw plenty of fucking meteors in the sky.
You can watch
No,
the
I didn't
skylight
ask
up
if
like
you saw
you're
anything in the
a
sky.
haircut.
Did you see something come down due to gravity?
Well, they were burning
I
up
know
in the
somebody-
atmosphere.
No, so
Hey, hold
fuck
on.
off.
I actually know somebody, Faroah Pharms, who has equipment on their roof. They have the equipment that activates the cameras and actually tracks meteorites, because they happen way more often than you think. And he actually goes out on meteorite hunting expeditions because they calculate trajectory, and they occasionally find them in the middle of a farmer's field and stuff. It takes dozens of people. They spend several days out there because that's what they like doing, and they find them, and they're made of pure steel and stuff when they come down because they're right out of space.
It's very hard to take you serious when you're a naked old man Cupid.
Out of space.
Uh,
And they're made out of
Well, where
pure
else are they-
steel.
because, yeah, a lot of
This
things...
sounds like some
the
sort
entire
of like
planet.
fucking, you know, them people
Okay,
that do that
Pharaoh,
weekend like
Pharaoh,
old military
Pharaoh, I gotta ask you,
fucking.
how
That
do
sounds like
we-
a whack
okay,
hobby,
Pharaoh.
bro. They need to quit that shit.
Pharaoh, you can talk all you want, but I'm going to ask you a question here. How do we turn iron that comes up as an ore into steel that you use in a product? We heat it up, right? What do you think happens to those things when they come through the atmosphere? They heat up. So they turn into, they fuse into... Yeah, but they're not, okay, so then go back to your thing. Who put the fucking potential energy to lift that rock up into the sky? Where did it come from? God?
Okay, right.
Well, I don't think there is a rock in the sky just fall into the earth, mate. So that's just irrelevant.
Right. Let me
Well, I
let me
know
ask
people
you.
that find them.
Okay, I've got a question.
You're
for
telling me
right?
you know some guys that go with some other guys to a field and find bits of steel as your evidence for
it's
meteors.
their hot.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Well,
Get the fuck out of here.
They track.
All right,
they
all right.
Let me
track
debate
it,
flat
they
earth in the
coordinate-
shop.
Right.
Shush.
Let me get back in
Shush.
there.
And then
Let
they
me
find
get
them-
back in there.
All right.
Right.
I'm just gonna say they find the little crater. I mean, it's got a little crater. It's like they find it. So you can think what you want,
That's
but I know
totally
people
awesome.
that do this.
I'm something.
Right.
Awesome.
So Farah, right.
Whatever. You
So,
don't believe anything, obviously.
Say there's a stone next to a bigger well that goes down a couple of miles, and I pick that stone up off the ground and drop it down that well. Once it's got past the point where I dropped it, where does the extra energy come from for it to keep going?
This is my favorite one. Right? So there is. This is the best one, right? So if you consciously drop something from its natural resting position, right? Where do I say it always finds? It always goes back to what? Ground, right?
Yeah.
So now you've consciously picked it up and put it over a well. Where is ground?
Well, it should be the same point that you picked it up from. If
The
you're
ground
saying I have
over
put the
a well
energy, yeah, but
is
you are
the
saying
air at
that
the surface of the well. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, mate. Don't
with
take
what
the
you
piss.
said.
I don't take the piss of your question.
No,
Hey,
Farah.
Hey, Pharaoh, you're getting upset here, and you got to calm down, buddy.
With what you've
It's
said.
just a bit silly, though, isn't it? Where is ground?
Let me
in a
explain
well.
my
We agree.
reasoning.
We agree that the
question.
whole thing is silly. We agree.
Let me explain my reasoning. All right, you are putting the assumption in that the energy that the acceleration of that the object experiences comes from the fact that I have put into it from picking it up from the ground. Now, going on that assumption, it means that it will only fall a certain distance because that is the energy that I have put into it, is that certain distance energy. So ground for that object should be that distance no matter
So in your calculation, you've completely disregarded environment, your conscious decision to change this environment in which the energy in it is held. So how do you calculate that? How do you calculate your conscious decision to change this environment? Thus changing its natural progression.
According to you, the energy input is equal to the distance lifted, right? If we're going to get this
When
down
have I said
into
that? I've never ever said that. Nope, I've just said that it returns to ground as a natural process. I've never come out with any sort of equation like that whatsoever. That's
Well,
ridiculous.
I'm trying to put your words into an equation that I can work with, because you have
Yep,
told
and
you
that's
have
not
told
one.
me that the
That's
acceleration
stupid.
an object experiences, the energy comes from what I have picked it up from disturbing it from its resting place. So from that we can assume that the energy an object has is proportional to the distance that it has been lifted. Therefore, the
Well, this is where you
acceleration.
trip up all the time, because you make
Let me
you make
finish my
stupid
thought. Let me
assumptions.
finish my thought. Let me finish my thought. Therefore, the acceleration that it can experience is also proportional to the energy that was put into it. Meaning that
Oh,
the acceleration will have a finite time that it can happen over.
nope. I mean, it's proportional, but only in the essence of the environment you put it in. Of course, if it's resting on top of a well and you take it to the other side of the well, around the rim, and the ground, i.e., the stone or whatever it might be, the foundation right there that the object's resting on, if you consciously make a decision to then change the environment and hold it over a well, you then have to calculate the amount of energy, your conscious decision, to take it out of its resting environment.
Right. So
It's not
so
gonna.
you're saying I am literally imbuing an object with extra energy just by my thought process of changing its position in space. So we also have to assume in that case that the energy input is proportional to the willpower of the. Am I a
Not
Green
extra
Lantern?
energy, right? You're viewing a process and you're perceiving it as energy over a certain time. Now, when you have an object and you lift it up, it's going to fall back to its natural resting position of ground, wherever that may be. So if you pick it up and you move it to the middle of a well and you drop it, it's going to fall until it gets back to its natural resting position, the foundation of ground, which is going to be the bottom of the well. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
You've made a conscious decision to move it, and in doing so, the environment has changed, and therefore, the natural process it's going to take has also changed. Your perception of it,
Right.
at least.
Let
If you're going
me.
to say that that's giving it more energy, or whatever kind of technical,
Well,
roundy-boundy kind
more
of weird
force
terms you want
because
to give it, whatever,
you've.
but it's a simple process. I can't even possibly explain it any more
Right.
simply.
Okay. So you've agreed that acceleration requires a force, right? We've established that, and the force that you've put into it is caused by me disturbing it from its natural resting place. So then we also have to say that there is more force being applied to it if I decide to move it over a position that is meaning it needs more distance to travel than its original resting place.
I mean, that
You
is
do see how
ridiculously
stupid
long
that
and
sounds,
obscure.
right? You do
That's
see how
stupidly long and
ridiculous that
obscure.
sounds.
Yeah, I have no idea why you said that.
Because this is what you're
No
telling
idea.
me, and I'm trying
This
to
is
actually
as
make
simple as
sense
what
of
I'm
it.
telling you. I'm going to tell you one more time. I'm going to make it in one sentence, so it's dead easy, simple, right? If you see things fall, it's because there's been energy given to it in order to lift it from its original natural resting position, the foundation, which is ground. End.
Okay, that's not the end though. That raises so many more questions. I would like to be able to put an equation and the formula to be able to calculate things based on the things that you are saying.
Because otherwise it's not real, no?
Well, that's how we
To do that,
that's
what you
how we
do then
figure out
is
things
say,
that are real.
wow. No, but listen, no, but what I've just said to you is a very, very simple sentence. And then what you take from there is going, wow, I'm going to have to make an assumption
Yeah,
that
of
when I
course,
lift it, it
because
only
what
has
you're
the same
saying is
amount of
things
energy
happen
to go back to the
because.
exact same back point that it was in the first place, even if I consciously move it over to somewhere that's totally different.
Yeah,
Fucking stupid.
where's that extra energy come from?
What extra energy? You've just moved it to a different place.
It's accelerating for a longer time. That needs more force.
No, it needs a change in environment. And the only way that that's coming about is your conscious decision to move it.
So my conscious decision gives it more energy because then it needs to accelerate for a longer amount of
Well,
time, which
what you're
needs more
witnessing,
energy.
you're absolutely adamant on perceiving as energy being acceleration towards the ground. All it's doing is returning to its natural resting position.
Via acceleration. It's accelerating. It's not just returning, Farah. This is the thing you're missing. It's not just returning, it's accelerating.
You perceive the return as an acceleration. So what?
No, I don't perceive it as an acceleration.
No,
it is an acceleration. It's a it's a measurable fact that it accelerates.
Okay, great. It
What
is an
aren't you
acceleration,
getting?
right? But first,
First,
we
it
need
is
to
an
establish
acceleration.
why it's falling, not why it's accelerating. It's
No,
irrelevant.
No,
it just does what it does.
It's because it's not falling. It's accelerating, and
and what do you know of that
because
accelerates?
it does. It isn't an answer just because that's that's not an answer at all. It's accelerating, which means there is a force being applied to it of some kind, right? And I am working on your assumption that the reason that it's accelerating is because it's been removed from its natural resting place and it wants to return. Therefore, I've given it that energy. My conscious decision has given it that energy. But that means that different amounts of acceleration over different distances will require different amounts of energy. So how am I consciously deciding to change the amount of energy being imbued into an object over a certain amount of time? I am not Harry Potter.
So an object has to, no, you're certainly not, even though you look a bit like him. But anyways,
I think my other glasses make me more look like Harry Potter. Is that better? Am I Harry Potter now?
Nah. What's that other dude in Gryffindor? Like the really overly nice one.
Neville Longbottom? No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not Neville Longbottom. Screw you. Anyway, I think I'd be Ravenclaw.
Yeah, you'd be fucking Slytherin, bro. But anyway.
Right. Anyway. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Right. So we agree that if you take something out of its natural resting position, right, it's always going to return to ground. It doesn't have the conscious ability to trace its exact steps. It's just going to go down towards ground because that's what it naturally does. So if you consciously remove it from its environment and place it in somewhere where it has to fall for longer or accelerate for longer or just go down or return for longer, you've consciously made that decision, and therefore it's going to take longer to go there, and therefore over a period of time it's obviously going to do what you perceive as accelerate more.
But I don't just perceive that it accelerate. It does accelerate.
What it does when it returns, i.e. accelerate, is irrelevant.
It's
to
really
the point
not,
that
though. Because acceleration requires a force.
Right, but if you consciously remove it from its natural resting position, like the well is a good example. If it's on the rim of the well and you move it from there over the well and then drop it, you've consciously changed the environment, and therefore it's going to do what it does, return to ground, i.e. the bottom of the well. It takes longer to do that. So
yeah,
what do you expect?
You're right. It takes longer to do that, which means that it's been accelerating for more time, right?
Right.
Which means that it's going to have needed more energy than something which accelerates over less time, right?
I can confirm that you look like the middle-aged Neville Longbottom or whatever.
Bite me.
Not the youngest, but not when he was older, but when he was kind of adolescent. I looked it up. I held them side by side on my screen.
Oh my
It
god.
was good.
The good news for you is he got more and more attractive as he got older, it looks like. Because when he was really young, he was very gangly.
He was a bit
He's very good looking now, actually.
Was a bit of a swan rather than a duck, wasn't he?
I bet you if I showed him to my wife right now, she'd say he was a stud now. So you got nothing wrong if you look like a current version of him, because that's great.
Yeah. All downhill from here.
Yeah, it's all downhill. Trust me, I feel like I'm older than 36, don't worry. But anyway, so... Thanks. Right, so back to the point. We can agree that if something accelerates for a longer period than something else, then it would have needed more energy, right?
Bear
in mind, we know that acceleration requires a force.
So... I think where the confusion here is you're viewing the process as having energy rather than the actual object. So like, say you're running a marathon or whatever. To run 26 miles, yeah, you're going to need a shitload of energy.
Yeah.
To jump out of a plane 26 miles, I can't get what that is in feet off my head, but I'd imagine it's pretty high. But if you're to jump that right out of a plane, are you gonna need the same? Is it gonna take the same amount of energy for you to move that distance?
Yeah,
it's a different kind of.
Let's think
energy.
about what it's taking to get you up there is the fuel in that plane that has to be expended to actually lift your weight up to however many thousands of feet up that they do a parachute jump.
Correct. So that could only take place from a pilot consciously placing his foot on something and then a mechanism, but it doesn't take physical energy. So it's not the same.
It's still
type of energy. So
it's still
a process. So once you do, what I'm saying is, once you jump out of the plane, you're going to fall, whether you have the physical prowess to do it or not. Do you know what I mean? You could die halfway down. You're still going to fucking hit the floor.
Yeah. Well, again, the important thing is you're not going to fall. You're going to accelerate the whole way down until you reach terminal velocity.
Right. You're going to complete the journey. Whereas with a marathon, you get halfway round and you fall and you fucking die. You're not making the entire 26-mile journey. Because the energy that it takes is not placed within the object. It's placed within the process.
Okay, but
and so
to the person that's running the marathon and doesn't get the whole way, right? That they are only going to be expending the energy that they've needed to go whatever pace that they've been going until they've unfortunately had a heart attack. And that can be measured in the amount of calories that they've taken in and burned. You can calculate the forces that involved, the amount of work that every cell of their body is doing.
The finish line isn't attracting him.
Yeah.
If the finish line was sucking him towards it because it attracted him, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, but so you can measure all the forces and energy, created and not created, you don't create energy, but the energy, put into the system and put out of the system to make it do the work up until the point that the guy died. But if you're doing a jump out of a plane, the fact that you are constantly accelerating, whether you die or not, shows that there has to be a force that's being constantly applied. The difference between dying halfway around a marathon to dying halfway to a parachute jump is you're going to finish that parachute jump no matter what, like you said, which means that even if you die, there's still force being applied to you because you're still accelerating towards the ground.
No, I mean, like I say, the acceleration is what we witness. What I'm talking about is the initial process. So when you're talking about the marathon, it's not someone, I mean, obviously when you're running, both feet leave the ground, but it's not someone directly leaving the foundation of Earth. Once you consciously make the decision to push down on that pedal and fly the plane and get in the air, once you jump out, you're going to come down no matter what, because you are partaking in the process of returning to the natural resting position. And so that two different energies are totally different. That's not saying that there has to be something sucking you to the earth or sucking you to the finish line. They're just two different processes. You have to interject there being a force when you can really discard that and just view them as totally different processes. There doesn't need to be a force involved. I mean, obviously the word force is different because we are viewing an acceleration, which I would agree is what you would interpret as a force, as the acceleration. If that's what we witnessed, then so be it. But the processes are totally different. We are viewing a process of something returning to its natural resting position of ground, in which, in every single occasion, that's what it does. No matter what distance it's from to what height the ground's at. If you jump out of a plane at 26,000 feet and you hit a mountain that's 13,000 feet high, you're still going to fuck yourself up real bad.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the natural process is still going to take place no matter what. The potential energy is, I mean, say that you say that there has to be more energy you put more energy into it. Okay, so what happens? Say you drop it down a well, and halfway down the well, there's a little guy with a fucking disc, and he can pull out a temporary flaw in the well. So you drop it, and you're telling me that there has to be, you've consciously put extra energy into it. I'm saying no. The process is just going to take place regardless. You can't seem to get your head around that. There has to be some sort of extra energy put in order to view this extra acceleration that we're going to view. So what happens then if you put this extra energy in and someone puts in a temporary flaw halfway down, which changes the distance? Is the energy still the same, and now it's got enough energy to crash through the floor?
What happens then is that your skull will implode to the back of your spine because you've hit the ground at 9.8 meters per second square. If it's a hard enough ground, then the force is going to go into you making a big splat. If the ground isn't very hard, then you're going to hit it, slow down a little bit, go through, and then continue to accelerate. There will still be force from whatever distance.
No, I'm not talking about the material of the ground. I'm not talking about the material of the ground. Say we go back to the well scenario with the well. You're saying that for an object, say it's on the side, you consciously pick it up and you move it to the middle of the well to drop it. You're saying that in order for it to drop further than where it initially was, what I'm trying to tell you is that that conscious decision must have put extra energy into it. I'm saying no, it's just going to follow a process regardless.
Oh, so just for
regardless
reasons.
of that. There's no extra energy in it. It's just going to follow a process. So if you then drop it and an artificial floor is put up as it's falling halfway down the well, so the well is half the depth that it would have been, is there a conscious decision to take away energy from the ball?
You don't take away the energy. The energy is expelled in other ways, like a noise made, heat being created, distortion of the object or the floor from the impact. The energy never goes away. It just is turned into another form. But this is all working on your assumption of the none of this is real physics that we are discussing. There's
no assumptions. It's all basics. All we're viewing.
No, you're making a big Farah. Let's make something clear. You're making a big assumption is that things just want to return to ground because reasons. That's a massive assumption that you're making there. You're not giving me any reason as to why this would happen.
Well, and they're looking at the same. They're looking at the same thing.
All things. That's the reason.
Pharaoh, can I ask
There's nothing complex about it. There's an innate natural process for all things.
Can I ask you what else in your world moves, in the world that you know of, what else moves without a force being acted on it? What do you know of anywhere that moves without something acting on it? It doesn't matter whether it's up or down. Anything moves in any direction, anywhere at all, without a force of some sort. Does it happen? There's nothing else I can think of that does it without a force. So this is the only thing in the entire planet we live in, or in the entire flat sphere, or whatever, that does this without some sort of force acting on it. And so really, we're all talking about the same thing here. You just don't want to call it gravity. Anyways, that's where I'm ending that. It's just a little tidbit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm viewing a natural process which can be explained without calling the thing gravity. The only time gravity comes into it is when we're talking about mass attracting mass. The entire view of what we see as things falling or things returning to its natural
fears you?
It's Brainy, I've got this.
Easily explained.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, buddy.
It can be easily explained.
Yeah, it's not easily explained though, because you're missing out an entire reason of why is it accelerating. What is physically causing that force to make something accelerate? Where is that coming from? And then you're saying that it's just a natural process, but a natural process that doesn't require a force.
It's how the energy is transferred. Again,
Where
like
the
the
energy
force
come
is
from
whatever.
if it's going further than the starting point. Someone in the chat made a point. They were born above sea level, so if they jump out of a plane, are they just going to float above sea level? I mean, if that is the place that it originally came from, it's natural.
No, ground is the natural rest position, wherever that may be, whatever the foundation structure might be.
So what's the force that's causing the acceleration towards the ground?
Whatever brought it out of its natural resting position in the first place, which was undoubtedly ground. What brought it out of its natural resting position? That's exactly the same thing that gave it the force to return.
Right, well, there you go. Then that goes back to, if I am the thing that moved it from its natural resting place and I have given it that force, how can it fall further than the force that I've given it? You're talking like yourself into a hole here.
What is the natural process? No, you're talking yourself into a hole. You don't know the depth.
Oh my God,
of
how you can't get this?
Quite
It's
clearly,
incredible.
I don't get how you can't get this. It's
Because
not going
you're
to
just
fall
saying it happens
back to
because
thin air.
reasons.
How do you think an object is going to fall back to thin air? How are you expecting to be having a serious conversation with me about how we're not really including physics here, and you're seriously asking me why, when I drop something from a sideboard here and then move it consciously over to somewhere where the ground is now the floor and I drop it, is it not returning to the same level as the sideboard? Why is it going further than the molecules of the air?
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous. That's not what I'm telling you. I don't understand how you're not getting that. Is not what I'm telling you. So why are you even saying it?
Because then I'm telling you that it's still accelerating. No matter how far it is traveling, it is still accelerating, which means there is a constant force being applied to it. See?
Right. So the energy of the process is constantly being transferred.
From
Great.
where?
You're measuring it. Great. From it being lifted out of its natural resting state.
Then how can it fall further than the energy that I put into it from out of its natural resting state? Jesus Christ, man!
How can you possibly? This is what I'm saying. How can you calculate the energy that you've put into it from moving it?
Easy.
It's actually
Go
calculatable.
on then.
Well, I would calculate the weight of the object,
so
the distance that I travelled it,
Right.
that I could even calculate how many calories my body would need to burn to be able to do that. It's easy. The math exists.
It's
Right, but
foot
you're not
pounds.
going
It's
to
a work
You're not going to.
rating.
Okay, that's great, but you're not going to calculate in this great mathematical equation you're coming up with here what the change in the environment is and where the floor now is, where the ground is that it's undoubtedly going to return to. That's
can
not in your
calculate
calculation.
the distance it's travelled, the amount of acceleration that it's under.
You've moved this entire environment to somewhere with the depth of where it's going to.
So you're saying that I can't
inevitably
calculate
end
it?
up.
You're saying it's impossible to
I'm
calculate?
saying that you're not. I'm saying you're not, which is the main point of this.
To be able to calculate it, I need to know.
You've consciously changed the environment to somewhere where its natural resting position is now totally different.
All right, let's ask a very simple question. Why does this natural process happen?
Well, for the same reason as what we were talking about with the plants earlier. Why do things go downwards or upwards, as they may be? Because that is the natural process in which they take.
Why?
Things have an innate cycle.
Why?
Why do you grow as a human and then die?
Because
and your bones shrink and you get old. It's a natural process.
I can explain all that, and I can explain the natural process. But why is there a natural process of things to go towards the ground? What is causing that natural process? Please.
Whatever lifted it out of its natural resting position in the first place is what's giving it the energy in order to be able to return. It's as simple as that. So give me any example
than the energy that I've given it.
Magic.
Crazy.
No, but I've said already, you can't calculate the energy you've given it. How can you possibly calculate when you've changed its environment?
Because I can still calculate the energy required to lift and hold an object
based on its weight. The process is going to inevitably... Hang on. We know for a fact that the process is inevitably going to happen no matter what. We know that if we drop something in a position that isn't as high as where it initially was, it's going to fall to wherever the ground is that it now is in. And the only reason it's moved is because of my conscious decision to do so. And now you're telling me that in so, we're not going to calculate the amount of energy that has now been given to it in changing
the
outcome of the process.
Where did it come
from? We know
from?
in changing the outcome of the process.
Via
we know that
process?
Moving it from somewhere
Via what process?
Okay.
How have I given it so much more energy? Via what process exactly, please?
There is energy in the process that you're totally missing. It's the energy of the process.
The energy of the
process. That's not God.
Those are definitely words, and they all have meanings, but that wasn't really a sentence.
There is process. There is the process in which is going to take place inevitably, no matter what, which is whatever object you've picked up.
Why? Why though?
Why do things? Why is it going to fall if you pick it up?
Yeah. Why?
Because you picked it up. Why did you pick it up? Why did you consciously let it go?
Because I wanted to.
Right,
Now, why is
that's
it going
why
back to the ground? What's causing it to continue
because
to
it wanted
accelerate?
to. Because you wanted to let it go.
Okay, so I pick something up, and then
Consciously.
I put it to below the point that I originally lifted it up from.
And now you're expecting it to rise up.
Yeah, based on your crazy physics.
I'm so confused as to what it is you're coming out with here, but you're twisting.
This
is
is
what I'm
just.
saying with the whole.
I mean, I'm just going with the logical progression of what you're saying.
What are you chatting?
I'm going with the logical progression of what you're saying.
Okay.
The problem,
So
Farah. The problem here.
No. Just go back to this one here. Go back to this one here, right?
Yeah.
Consciously move it back to where you had it before. So take it from the table, where that's ground. That's the foundation there. That's what it's resting on. Table, ground. Right. Now move it to lower than where it was initially.
Yeah.
Right. So we have consciously changed the environment. We now know that the outcome of the process is going to be changed. So now when observing this little experiment here, where is ground, Craig?
Now it's in the next shelf underneath it. If I let it go, it'll go to that. But
Excellent.
well, I'm really confused because according to you, there should be extra energy in it.
Amazing.
And it should go back to its resting place, which was originally on the point above it. Wow.
Why would it do that?
Because you said things have a tendency to return to their resting place several times.
Which is what?
Well, for that, it's on my desk. It's literally been there for about 6 months.
You just literally said that ground in this instant is the shelf below.
I'm now holding it away from the table.
It seemed like you grasped
its normal resting place is on my
it.
table.
Right, so if you consciously move it from its natural resting place into somewhere where the ground, the foundation, if you let it go consciously, is going to be changed. You look like I'm fucking blowing your mind here. What's going on?
I'm so confused as to how you're not getting the stupidity of what you're saying.
I've moved it off the desk.
You keep
the distance to the floor
fire, stop. You keep saying that the energy that it's getting to continue to accelerate is coming from me lifting it up. But then it continues to accelerate past that point, which means it needs more energy. And then you just go, well, that's just a natural process. I mean, that's the most circular reasoning I've ever heard. And frankly, it's a pathetically weak argument that has no basis in reality.
Right, so
I couldn't put a formula to that, ever. But I can put a formula to everything that I can describe and see based on Newtonian laws of gravity. Using Newtonian laws of gravity, I can exactly calculate
you can
how far something will fall.
And you can read other formulas of everything else that's been put to you. That makes it great. That's brilliant, Craig.
Well, no, the fact that the formulas can accurately reflect reality.
Let's go back to this because I'm literally not quitting until you fucking get this because it's the most basic shit ever. There's no extra energy. There is just energy within the process.
That makes no sense. Where does that energy come from?
Listen. The process is inevitably going to happen when you consciously lift it out of its natural resting place.
So the energy comes from the future?
Well, it'll always be the present, I suppose, if you've done it.
Did you just invent time travel?
Nope. Unless you did. I don't know. It seems like you're fucking drunk or something. I don't know what's going on here.
No,
I'm not too sure. If you consciously make the decision to lift something out of its natural resting place, it's always going to return. If you remove it where the environment is now changed and ground, the foundation, its natural resting place is now at a different distance, it will fall, whatever that different distance is. Because it has to complete the process.
Why? Who told it has to complete the process? For what reason? And what mechanism is causing it to complete that process?
Natural order. Same reason that
natural order.
It's for the same reason.
Wait. Please define natural order and give me the equations around that. You realize that your argument is it happens because reasons.
Yeah, I'm hearing God. That's what I heard.
No.
Like really.
I mean, the thing is, Farah, what I do is I continually I always ask the question, well, why does that happen? And then if I'm given an answer, I still ask, well, why does that happen? It seems like flat earthers just stop once they get part of an answer and never continue to ask the question why, when that question's actually really, really important. Why does it continue to accelerate after it's expelled the energy that I put into it by lifting up from its original resting place? Why does it continue to accelerate no matter what? Why does all objects continue to accelerate? And then we can start asking questions like, well, why do objects accelerate at slightly different rates at different parts of the world? And then from that, we can ask even more questions. Like, does that mean that there is an attraction happening, an attraction that we can measure? And then we can ask the question like, well, how do we measure that attraction? And then we can ask the question like, oh, can we create an experiment around measuring that attraction? And then we can actually do it and measure that attraction and find out that there is actually an attraction that's happening that we can measure. And it's not just an up and down attraction. It's side to side. It's wherever mass is, as confirmed by Cavendish, recently by B.M. Ferbel's Cavendish. Any of my mods, please put a link to B.M. Ferbel's Cavendish experiment in the chat if you can. There's so many whys that you don't ever seem to want to ask. You're just happy with it happens because that's the natural process. And that's crazy to me.
I ask many whys, and the only answer to any of those questions regarding any of this is gravity. You ask for proof of gravity, and you come up with Cavendish, mass attracting mass, two-led objects, and then you claim that other people replicate it. Mm-hmm. When I see ridiculously loosely controlled experiment, it's the poorest shit ever. It's the same as you in this dumbass plumb bob experiment over 300 days where you're telling me that there's, I mean, the same way.
Apart from the fact that Cavendish is done all the time in laboratory conditions in universities all around the world every single day.
And I want to add something to that.
Again,
if there was any technology, hold on, I have to add this. I have to add this. If there was any technology involved other than a fucking plumb bob and a line, you guys would claim that it was all set up and the thing had been programmed and there was magnets involved. God, the answers that come out of that are ridiculous. So why would it not be the greatest thing to have the most simple experiment that shows it? That's what you want. Sorry. I can't, it's honestly, Fight, I know you know what it's like. It's so hard to sit here for 2 hours and not. Anyway, so go ahead. My bad. I am so sorry.
Like I said, the Cavendish is repeated in laboratory conditions all around the world, in universities all the time. That you can literally buy scientifically calibrated Cavendish experiments for yourself. That you can decide how
everything has mass. So I've got no idea how you're expecting to be able to accurately.
Yeah, you're right. Everything has mass, and we can measure how much mass, therefore how much gravitational attraction is happening.
Yeah, well, I've never ever seen the original, any sort of a real verification of the original experiment, and I've never seen any replications done to what I would deem a satisfactory standard.
Dude, you're in southwest England, right? Go to Bristol University. The University of West of England. I know for a fact they have a Cavendish set up in their science department, in their physics department, like as you walk into the main hall. Like, you can literally go to your local university and see it. But you won't, because you don't want to. Because you know the Earth can't be flat, and you just don't want to accept it.
I definitely don't know that the Earth can't be flat, because I definitely know that it is. So that's just, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Can you show me a picture of it?
Then why would I tell you that I know somebody who literally tracks asteroids and then or meteors and finds them? Why is that?
Right. Well, all right, let's move this debate to the point where a flat earther provides evidence. All right, so you say you know the Earth is flat. How can you know the Earth is flat? What evidence is there that the Earth is flat?
Again, it's not, you're going to talk on a purely scientifical, geological type basis, whereas the depth of the deception for me to really get into it is it comes from school and singing them dumbass songs.
Okay, well, that's completely avoiding my question. I just want actual. You just said you know for a fact that the Earth is flat.
You want proof,
right? I would like you to give me some positive. Wait, 1 sec. I would like you, because honestly, no flat earther has ever done this, is to give me some positive evidence on the flat Earth that I can go and verify.
Yeah,
Because-
totally negative evidence. There's no evidence of a spherical Earth.
Yeah, there
That's
is.
me done.
There's 100% evidence
No,
of a spherical Earth. There's millions of pictures from space taken every single day. There is countless experiments that can absolutely 100% demonstrate the rotation of the Earth.
You run a channel called Fight the Flat Earth. Your
It's called
main
FTFE now.
occupation, whatever the fuck it's called at the minute, your main occupation in this thing is to defend this globular position. So
Yeah, nice
obviously you're going
deflection
to say
there.
that. What do you think?
Nice
What do you
deflection.
think I'm going to expect you to say? It's
I
not
would
deflection,
actually,
it's the
yeah,
truth.
yeah, no, I'm
There's
asking you for positive evidence of the flat
of the
Earth.
spherical Earth.
Yeah, there
and I've
is.
just said that I'm not going to give you any. It's pure negative evidence. There's no
but there
evidence of a
is
spherical Earth.
evidence
so touch
of-
your mum, move on.
Dude, there is fuck your mum, move on, lovely. Dude, there is evidence of the fact that the Earth
fuck.
is spherical and is spinning and traveling through space. There's evidence all over the place. There's been evidence presented by flat earthers. There is evidence from space every single day. Just saying
bet you
it's
could
fake
join
and you don't believe it doesn't make it any less true.
I bet you there's a local meteor hunting society you could get into, and they would show you
No.
how they do it.
Same way,
in your area.
same way that you saying that you do believe it doesn't make it more true. So what?
Well, except I've got evidence that it's true. So I'm not just
Such
saying
as?
it. Well, such as evidence that the Earth is rotating, such as millions of pictures from space all the time, such as physics that can only exist on a
There's
spherical
no pictures
Earth.
from space.
Well, there is.
There's no pictures from space. They're
we've
images.
We've had
correct?
pictures from space since 1946. Before
Are
NASA.
you
was
saying
even,
that pictures,
you
are
know,
you saying
existed.
pictures in a loose term is in photographs? We're talking
Photographs,
pictures in images. We both know that there's
whatever
two
you
different
want.
things.
There is full unedited pictures of Earth from space that have been taken on hard film, Hasselblad camera. I'm not sure what the camera was that they had on
Well, again,
the V2
again,
rocket
it
that they sent
totally
into
depends
space. I've got the picture from
what you define
1946.
as space, because you know a lot of high
Outside of
altitude
Earth's
photography
atmosphere.
can be. Well, again, where the fuck does that reside? Because you know, there's all these
Well, there's
reports
a
now of
Kármán
the
line.
moon being inside the atmosphere, and
Don't. You just said a stupid. I love it when flat
I
earthers
said
bring up
there's
arguments
all
that
these-
they don't even understand in the slightest, because
I said there's all these reports. I didn't go into any specifics. Is there not reports? Is there reports?
no, there is not reports of the Earth existing inside of Earth's atmosphere, like you say.
So if I Google it, so hang on a sec. No, hang on a sec. Shut up. Hang on a sec. Shut up.
No, you shut up
If
and
I
actually
Google-
listen to.
If I Google it
what
now,
you-
if I
what you've
Google it
just
now, there's
done
not going
is-
to be any reports. There's not going to be any reports saying that the moon is inside Earth's atmosphere. There's not going to
And
be
then
none. No,
if
if I
you
Google
read
it.
the article, what will it say? It will say that it exists within the diffuse cloud of hydrogen in the outer bands of what we could even maybe slightly consider our atmosphere. It's not like the moon is in the atmosphere where you could just go up there without a helmet and still survive. That's not what it meant, and you just proved that you haven't even read the article by bringing up.
I think it was-
When did you? No,
nonsense.
you've just assumed that that's what I've meant. When have I assumed that I could go up there with no gas mask or oxygen or whatever the fuck
but
you just said?
with the fucking
You've just
stupid
assumed that
you
that's
just
what I've meant.
said.
That's not what I've said. All I said was that there is media reports saying that, which you've just confirmed.
And
About
did you
stupid,
read the
fucking idiot.
entire argument? Because it's
It
not
doesn't
we're
true.
gonna
matter. If the
tell-
headline says
Okay,
that, then there's media reports of that. Therefore,
Oh,
that's
so
what the
you're just the
reports are of.
headline guy. You don't actually
fucking
read the whole thing.
Hey, okay, everybody's
I
getting
may
angry
have done,
here.
but you've made an assumption that I haven't, based on the fact that I've pointed out that there are reports of what there are reports of.
Yeah,
Clearly.
but you didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, but okay.
No,
yeah,
you've assumed I didn't know what it meant. I didn't go into details. You've assumed that I thought it meant you could
Well,
go out there
why
with
would
no
you say
spacesuit.
it
There was
then?
enough
Why would you
oxygen
say
up
it
there.
then? Because the moon is
Why would I
still
claim that
in
there's reports?
space.
That isn't what I said. I didn't claim that there was or it wasn't.
Well, why did you bring
or
it
was
up
or
then?
wasn't. I
Why
claimed
did you bring it
that
up?
there is media report because it gives
Okay, so
confusion.
hold on.
It's relevant.
The moon's in a vacuum
I
for all
didn't say
intents
that
and
I was
purposes, dude.
confused. I didn't even indicate that I was confused about it. You've just assumed.
Why did you bring it
Many
up then?
weird assumptions.
Because it's not
This
relevant.
is exactly how you fall into the trap last time with telling me that I agreed with everything that you said by making up assumptions of things that I've said. I never ever said that. All I said is that there's reports which you've just agreed. You've then assumed that I've not understood what's in the reports.
Well, can you explain to
You're
me
stupid.
what it means
You're
then?
stupid.
Because, like, when you
You
started
just
saying...
explain what it means.
Okay,
You just
so-
explained what it means.
Well,
So
then-
what am I going to do? Repeat
down,
back to you
slow
what I've
down.
just listened to.
Everybody-
Farah?
Fuck off.
Well, then you need to
Yeah, you're
understand the
getting pretty
difference
upset now.
between what outer
Pharaoh,
space
not
is.
Farah. My little sister's name's Farah. Just shut up. You're an idiot.
You're a bit feisty today, aren't you?
Yeah, you don't come across as
Your
a winner when you get
assumptions-
angry like that.
Your
That goes,
assumptions.
that goes for
Your
everybody.
assumptions.
Okay, so
No, but
you're
his
dancing around the
assumptions when he
points
comes across
anyway,
with
right?
things,
Because
telling
you
me
still
what I
need to
understand
actually
and what I
provide
don't
some positive
understand. I've
evidence
just
for the
made
flat
a
Earth.
basic claim of something
Is
that
there
he's just
any,
agreed with.
dude? Is there any
Ends
evidence
up
for a
with
flat
me
Earth?
getting said that I've agreed with everything that he said, and
Is
I've
there-
totally not agreed with it.
Is there any evidence for the flat Earth?
Positive evidence.
Yeah, that's how you define if something's true, and you can give positive evidence for it. Is there any positive evidence for a flat Earth? Because there is so much positive evidence for the globe Earth, including full pictures from space.
Well, I have seen photographs from high altitude where the Earth most definitely appears to be flat. So in
And I
terms
bet you've
of
seen
photographs,
just as many high altitude
I guess we
photographs that show that there's a curve.
trade.
And you and most flat earthers will be the first
Oh
ones
yeah,
to
but
say that
I would
there's curved
imagine the
lenses,
majority
blah, 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 right?
of. I'm not saying that there isn't ones. I'm not saying that there isn't ones that you could show me that you would be able to say that you personally would be able to tell me. Yeah, I believe these aren't, manipulated in any way. But the ones that I've seen with a lot of curvature, definitely appear to be obviously with a fisheye lens. And so, yeah, I've seen just as many, but that's on the basis that the majority of institutions that come out with these photos are trying to keep up with what we perceive as the deception. So you providing me with photos and me providing you with photos and you having more doesn't really, just because you've got more doesn't make it more real.
Okay. Have you ever seen the first picture of Earth from space?
Yeah.
You know which one I mean?
Yeah, most probably.
The 1946 one. This one.
Oh, yeah, I have seen that before, yeah.
Right.
I've seen that a lot less than the majority of the others, though, but yeah, I have seen that.
Well, there's curve on that when you put a line across it. So the very first picture from Earth actually shows that there's curve. Funny enough, this is actually from a Flat Earthers website, and they've cropped out about a third of the image either side to make it appear flatter than it actually is. So that's nice. But so there is an example of some positive evidence for the shape of our planet. Clear proof clear evidence via a picture taken on a rocket sent into space in 1946, before there was the ability to alter photos and that, clearly showing curvature to the Earth. Does not that then indicate that the Earth is curved?
Well, by your own admission, you just showed me like a third of the image, and it didn't really look like there was a lot, if any curvature there. I mean,
let me get the full.
These institutions here, you're talking about 1946. Is that a NASA photograph? Yeah.
No, NASA was not invented in 1946.
What space institution is that from?
Well, that was, I think, NASA's predecessor, the National Advisory for Aeronautics or something. But 1946 it was way before NASA was ever thought of.
So it was Jack Parsons,
and it was a V2 rocket that was a captured German V2 rocket that was sent up.
Yeah, that.
So while you're looking,
was Jack Parsons a part of this?
I'm not sure.
While you're looking at that, I'm just going to ask
Go on.
I just want to ask one question while he's looking up that picture there. Faroah, why is it acceptable to say that you've seen images from pictures taken by others that show the Earth looks flat, and yet when I tell you I know people that hunt asteroids, that track them with gear on their roof, coordinate where they've gone to and try to find them and come up successful sometimes. Plus there's I think I'm looking on the right now for the British and Irish Meteorite Society right now. You have one near you. And they go and look for them and they find them. So, I mean, I just don't know why, am I lying? Am I making this up?
Okay.
I mean, like I said, when we was talking about meteorites, I haven't seen one. I've never seen a meteorite come down in some sort of burning fire, then cool down and hit the earth. I've never heard of anyone's car or anyone's house being smashed by a meteorite.
That's actually great, because you know what? There's a news report from only a few years ago where it went behind. They're sitting in the house, they hear a loud bang, they go outside, and the back of their car is crushed. And meanwhile, underneath their car, there's a hole right through the frickin' back of their car, and underneath is a hot rock right from space. Right. And that happens. There are lots of reports. Just go look them up. There exists.
I bet they weren't covered by insurance either. All right, so Faroah.
That's cool, but again, attributing that rock to be coming from space, you know.
So let's look at this, right? This was the image I showed you, right? Taken from a flat earther's website, and they've put first photo of Earth from space, 1946, 100% level, all right? But what you notice is that, well, sorry, it's slowing down. When you actually go down to the full picture, that they've literally taken, sorry, the website keeps skipping. All right, that's what they've given you, except that's the full image. Stop skipping there. So they've literally cut it off about there and there on each side. And then when you go down and look at the actual full image with a line on it, clearly shows that there's curvature, rather than just this little section just above it that they cropped to show that, make it appear that there wasn't any curvature. And then just to show it a bit more easy, they've turned the image on its side to show that there is quite clearly curvature in that first picture of Earth from space in 1946, despite flat earthers trying to fool us into thinking that there isn't by altering the image to show a flatter portion than we actually had. That's just a Hasselblad camera they used to take the picture of Earth from space, I think. So yeah, I'll put the link to this website in the chat. Anyone can go and check it out themselves. But the first picture of Earth from space, the very first one, clearly showed that there was curvature. And also it's clear proof that flat earthers are deceptive. So how do you explain the fact that that picture showed curvature?
Well, first, I'm not going to justify other flat earther or whatever their actions, whatever they choose to say is up to them. If that image clearly, I'm on my phone, I couldn't really see it too up close. It did look like it was.
I'll happily send you the link to the channel you can check out yourself.
Yeah, but if they've posted that image saying that it is clearly level and it's quite clearly not, then whatever. I can't defend their actions. But in terms of these institutions, whether it be NASA or National Space Aeronautics Centre, the people involved and their intentions sometimes when looking at this is why I asked you if Jack Parsons is involved. I mean, these people, when it comes to our perception or my perception of the deception, and when I say, it's hard for me to talk about from a purely scientific level when really a lot of it is purely based in occultic doctrine and fusing that with people's natural susceptibilities and scientism and, what people's vulnerabilities are and how humans act and, fulfilling goals over a long period of time. A lot of these basic foundational elements to a lot of fraternal organizations and such. It encapsulates the overall deception encapsulates a lot more than just the general scientific chit chat. And so when I say, is Jack Parsons involved, it's because these people aren't involved in your everyday nonsense, like talking like we are now even, these people are involved and believe in some incredible things that, I don't know if you have looked into any sort of occultic doctrine or what any of these sorts of people, Aleister Crowley,
since coming across you guys, I've expanded my conspiratorial knowledge, shall we say. There's still a lot of conspiracy stuff that I'm not aware of. Trythinking's trying to claim a victory because I didn't really know a lot about Operation High Jump and the conspiracy behind that. But that just proves that I focus my stuff on physics and what can actually be shown. With evidence
that's what I mean. Like when I come here, obviously, like this is one very small part of my type of knowledge that I'm interested in this type of field. A lot of it is based in that other stuff as well. Like you said, Operation High Jump, Operation Bluebeam, a lot of these other certified military operations that we can historically look at that did happen. There is again there's a lot of noted biographic type documentation. There's a lot of footage and images and things of these different operations and stuff, and the things that these people believed in, and the way that when we was talking earlier about whether it's okay to teach children this stuff. When you look at, I don't know, how we took on the story of Father Christmas and Santa, Saint Nicholas, or whatever you want to call it, how the control of the church and state and the schools over a period of time really developed. When you were saying that, you just think that's just how the natural progression is, and rah, rah, rah. When you look at what these people believe in and what positions they hold, even,
Yeah, but none of that's relevant to what happens now.
Or ministers of education, of course it is. All of these people still have these positions. This is why I talk about goals over time, because it's not just one person that fulfills the entire goal. It's progressed over time, which is why certain positions are filled by certain people at certain times, and they belong to certain organizations and inevitably believe in certain things and having the same agenda as their predecessors.
No one at school told me what to think or believe. I was given the ability to figure that out myself.
It was told.
No, it wasn't.
Not really.
I was given the ability to figure it out myself.
No. This is what I was saying in the first place. When we're talking about the deception, you're 4 or 5 years old and you're singing "He's got the whole world in his hands," and you go to your first lesson and learn that actually no one's got anything in their hands at all. You're just spinning in a vast, infinite vacuum of space, and you come about by accident, an explosion, a big bang, an explosion that created everything in perfect harmony. All of this perfect balance and harmony that we see on a daily basis is actually just here by chance, and we don't really have any innate purpose in being
perfect. You do know what entropy is, right?
I'm talking. Oh yeah.
There's no harmony in. It's been the school holidays. You got kids. You should know there's no bloody harmony.
Oh, of course there is. My kids are wonderful.
I mean, I don't mind my own kids.
The natural balance that we see in the world, the natural cycles that have been here from the beginning of time, however that came about.
I mean, none of that is relevant to just hard empirical evidence, and that's all I really care about is what can actually be shown to be fact. And which is why I will do what I can do to show that the Earth does rotate and that it is a sphere of a circumference of 25,000 miles an hour.
That's okay to an extent, but then you have to understand that
the stuff about it being a lie, that doesn't matter to me. I don't care. What I want is actual evidence of a position.
Right,
and
you've
made it clear, Faroah, you've made it clear that you don't have any evidence for the fact that the Earth is flat because there isn't any.
No, see, when it comes to gravity, all you've done is come with mass attracting mass, which is not something that poor experiments, very bad. But when we view mass attracting mass,
the experiment. Here's one. It's a poor experiment. Give me another one. Here's another one. Oh, that's still a poor experiment. Yeah, flat earthers are wonderful. Well, intellectually honest, like the best of them.
I mean, the only other thing we go to then is how things fall, and all you can really come at is either not understand. Right, so the falling you witness as an acceleration. That's brilliant.
Yeah, an acceleration requires a force. It's as simple as that. And you can't explain where that force comes from.
My point is,
yeah, no.
I can.
We have gone over
from it. We've gone over this, but what we come to was a stalemate, and then you go, well, I can't put an equation on that, which is where your knowledge stops. Unless you can put an equation on it yourself at that particular time, I mean, you haven't really thought about it other than, I mean, it's gone nowhere. There's
Fine, I
no
sent you something on
examples
your
of
Discord.
anything rising without. There's no
I don't care.
examples of
No,
anything
I
falling
don't
without
care.
rising first, other than
It's right. I don't think it
a
needs it.
meteor.
Like, I think it's probably time to call it a night, because we are going around in circles now. You really don't get the point about where does this extra energy come from in your model. Your answers literally come down to
No, you don't get
because reasons, because that's a natural process. I'm going to keep asking you why and what is the natural process, and you can't answer. So,
Well, yeah, because you chose to move it. The natural process is returning to ground. If you move
what's
the
the
position
mechanism
of
behind
ground,
the force that's being applied for the acceleration then? See, you can't answer these simple questions. That just saying
No,
it's a
but
process isn't an answer. That doesn't answer anything at all. Really,
I don't
it
need to.
doesn't.
There's no attribute. There's no space there for the attribution of gravity. There's no need for it. Where does that come into it? If I witness it being an acceleration, then that's what it is.
Yeah, an acceleration requires a force. That's a fact of a basic fact of physics.
Right. And that's only come from one place, hasn't it?
Yeah, from apparently me picking up from its resting place and giving it magical properties where it can just use that energy over whatever period it wants to, and then increase the energy that it's got if it wants to go further. It's amazing. Honestly,
No, the energy.
the stupidity of displayed tonight has stunned me.
The example I gave with the marathon and the plane perfectly encapsulates the energy lying within the
you don't
process
get anything.
and not lying within the object.
Right. I mean, your misunderstandings of physics aside, I can show you pictures of the Earth from space. Where's a flat Earth picture? Where's a map that comports to the flat Earth?
We've gone through this. Just because you've got more doesn't mean that it's more real.
It does. I've got some. There isn't any pictures of the flat Earth. None. There isn't any map that comports to flat Earth being a reality. Every single flat map is distorted because it's a projection of a globe. And this is attested by the fact that the AE map has Australia 4 times the length that it's supposed to be. The reality that we are in is that the Earth isn't flat.
That's convinced me, Craig. Nice one.
Well, the fact that I can give you evidence, I can show you pictures and physics that comport with the reality of the way we have it, and the fact that you can't even give me an accurate map literally kills the flat Earth dead. I mean, simple things like how the fuck does the sunset happen on the flat Earth?
You haven't even asked me for an accurate map. You just literally just said then that I can't give you an accurate map. You haven't even asked me for one.
Have you got one?
Your assumptions are ridiculous.
Have you got an accurate map?
Got one?
Have you got one?
Have you just assumed that I haven't?
Have you got one?
Have you just said
No,
that I
you
haven't?
don't.
I'm asking you now. Have you got one?
Are we answering a question with a question?
I'm asking you now.
Shut up.
I'm asking you the question now.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Map?
Have you just assumed? No. You can't ask a question after I've asked a question.
Yes, I did assume that you don't have an accurate map. I did assume that,
right.
And now I would like you to
either
prove that assumption right or wrong.
This is where we're getting tonight. Is a whole lot of assumptions about what I'm saying, what I know.
Pharaoh,
all it results in is you come in with some bullshit. If I let you get away with it, all you do is go, you agreed with everything that I said.
Right,
I didn't. So that's where we're going tonight.
Right, Pharaoh.
I'm smoking a G.
Right, I made the assumption that you don't have an accurate flat Earth map.
Having me.
Pharaoh,
I'll speak to you again soon.
Pharaoh, are you going to run away before you answer a question?
I'm not running away.
Right, answer this question.
I'm just going. I'm going to bed. I'm going to smoke a zoo. You've already made the assumption that I don't. So why should I? Even if I did, why would I show it to you if you've already assumed that I don't?
You're the only
because I'm now asking you.
Where does your authority?
Because I'm now asking you.
If I've worked on something
I'm asking
really hard, and you just assumed that I don't have the intelligence or the.
Have you?
Do you know if I do or not? No. Did you assume that I didn't?
Yes, you're right. I absolutely 100% assumed that you didn't have a flat Earth map.
Claim that you've got the authority to demand to see something? Yes, it does.
You are absolutely right. I 100% made the assumption that you don't have a flat Earth map. Now, do you have a flat Earth map?
Take it easy.
No? You're going to run away?
Yeah, he's running away.
Oh, little girl ran away when I asked him for a flat Earth map.
Log back in. He'd be the only flat earther that has a fucking map. That's why we know he doesn't have one.
Oh my god. He literally ran away when I asked him to see a map. Yes, I 100% made the assumption that he didn't have an accurate flat earth map, because there's no such fucking thing as an accurate flat earth map. So yes, I did make that assumption, Faro. 100%, you're right, I made that assumption. But if you had one, then you could have just shown me and shut me up. But no, you ran away like most flat earthers do. At least you turned up for a debate, but whilst you were here, you acted like a little bitch.
Ugh. I mean, the thing that bugs me is that, and obviously we're going to wrap this up, especially with him not here, but the thing that bugs me is that he makes claims like, okay, so I come forward and I tell him, like, I literally had an 11-hour drive with this guy and I went and seen his setup. Like, he literally... he looks for them with metal detectors. They track them with gear on the roof. It picks up a flare in the sky. The camera starts tracking, and this little dome will literally track it in the sky right to its point on the horizon. And he's part of a group of a whole bunch of people that do the same thing. And what they use is they use their different cameras, and they have it all set up and calibrated so they know the angles it's tracking at and everything. And they triangulate using the different cameras, and they actually get an actual accurate idea of about where that meteorite went to. And usually it's a farmer's field because we live in a fucking prairie. So they literally get permission from the farmer and they start like kind of checking out the field. And a lot of times they find it in a little hole in the ground with a metal detector because they're made of pure iron. Because they come from space, right? And the thing that bugs me is where I was going to go with this is that Pharaoh can join these societies. There's nothing stopping him from going out there and doing the research, joining these groups and talking to these people. And if he wants to tell them they're wrong to their face, then I guess he's a brave individual. But what he's going to find if he does that, he's going to find there's people that are very knowledgeable and they're going to explain to him how they do this. And then he has some actual information, but instead he just I say, well, how does this happen? And oh, come on, rocks from space, get a fucking life. Like, he just doesn't want to learn.
No, absolutely not.
And then he calls me a fucking bitch. Sorry, well, he's being a bitch.
Team, I just saw your message there. Sorry, I didn't catch it beforehand.
Team is out there.
Yeah, you're welcome to pop in now, team, and tell me what you thought of what just happened.
Come in and have a quick powwow before we're off.
Yeah.
And I am sorry for jumping in occasionally. It's very hard.
I understand how hard it is. Although you need to watch BM Furball moderate. He was very good.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I always find. Oh, there's Pharaoh.
Oh, has Pharaoh come back?
Yeah. Yeah. Nah. What was she saying about you can join these societies or whatever?
What now?
Well, you can. They're free to join. I mean, there's societies out there. They'll talk to you, join the forum, start chatting with people. I mean, either they're all lying or they're chasing ghosts.
So what are we talking about here? Masonry.
What do you mean? What are we talking about? There's people that have gear. You can buy the equipment. They've set up things on their roofs. They track trajectories and they track the lights in the sky. Basically, a flare appears in the sky at the night because that's a meteorite, and it starts tracking it. It's
meteorite. Outside interesting.
Well, I mean, there's videos of rocks hitting people's windows when they're sitting there washing their car, and there's nothing above them. There's no buildings above them, and the rock comes down and just smashes their window out of nowhere. And there's a video, if you want, I can link it to you, and it's showing in 1992 the famous case of the big rock that went right through the back of the car. The teen came out, he was bored of the car or something, and it went through the back of the car, and he was trying to figure out what the fuck happened because the back of the car is basically like crushed in the corner. It went right through the back of the trunk and through behind the bumper, right below the vehicle, hot, and it was hot. You couldn't even touch it when they got out there. And there's nothing above them unless there's a magical rock plane flying around the earth. Anyways, sorry. But I wasn't actually part of this debate. I don't know. You came back. Sorry, my bad.
You came back. Any particular reason?
I think you just heard me talking, probably. You got a super chat, a big one, buddy.
Thankfully, when the meteorite hit. But thousands of people from several states reported seeing that green ball of fire shooting across the sky.
Shush.
Scientists said it came all the way from an...
We can't hear it, at least, so it's just you.
All right. Let me have a look at my room. I'm sorry.
Oh, it just came in. You didn't miss it by much.
Oh, Stephen York, thank you very much. Teaching children about transgender is not damaging. Children are highly accepted and they're only damaged by the way they're used upon by their parents to claim they'll be damaged by the information. Anyone who uses that argument is a cunt. Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. I think Farah's gone away again. Let me just double check the call.
Oh, it doesn't tell you when they log out, only when they log in. So he just came in to get that bit of information. Maybe he'll go join a society. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it says call disconnected.
Did Team Skeptic want to jump in for a minute before or is he not?
Oh, he's driving right now. He can't.
I see. I will watch, just so everybody knows, the moderating thing. I even told Craig, I mean, obviously I need a bit of practice. And I will watch BM Furball moderate. I meant to before this so I could get a little bit more idea of, because I know that you were praising how good of a job you did. So I want to try to emulate the great BM Furball and his body modifications. And his hand hole body modifications. I was telling him he should hang like one of those like Prince Alberts from the hole in his hand or something.
Yeah.
From the making its Cavendish.
All right, so I'll read the super chats and we can shut it down for tonight. I don't think Faro is coming back again. He got annoyed at me saying his name wrong many times. I'll have a fucking normal name then. Okay, $20 from Ivy Blankenship. The heliocentric model in Newtonian gravity can be utilized to produce real-world predictions. When the flat Earth has a model that can do the same, perhaps then we should consider teaching it to children. Exactly. $5 from Crash's RC Budget Builds and Reviews. I won't hire a Flerf, so what kind of job do you expect kids taught pseudoscience to get? Yeah, please don't go to McDonald's because I don't want you cooking my food. €5 from Mr. Present 99. The face can thing is a very distracting. Could you stop that, please? And who the hell is eating? What now?
Face thing? What thing?
I don't know.
Oh, this face rig thing? Maybe it was me switching in all the faces. Oh, it's because I was switching between all the different things. I was having fun.
€2 from the Snark. The experiment is repeatable and has been. Yeah, many times. 25 Rons from Lucia and Andres. Thank you very much. It's not a fish scale. It's a normal human scale. He's kidding, right? All scales do the same way. Pff, yep. 20 Sex. Thank you. I do like the sex. From Carl Christofferson. How about a pine cone dropping from a tree? Yep, exactly same thing. €2 from the Snark. Plant roots in space. Experiments done. US $2 from Rangerman 9404. Can we add those tomatoes to the word salad? I'd like some dressing with the word salad. $5 from Orlor. I am sure that Pharms has done the proper experimentations to form this energy hypothesis of his, right? He couldn't even get his hypothesis straight. $10 from Sparky NJ. FTFE. Pick up 2 stones near the well. Drop 1 back to the ground and the other down the well. Why did the rock down the well have more energy, giving to it they started at the same point? Reasons. It's a natural process, you idiots. Obviously. Durr. 66 New Zealand dollars from Boaty McBoatface. Here, this is to go towards extra energy for the train wreck. Thank you. £5 from Dan Robinson. Can you ask Dopey Bollocks or any Flerf if he can explain how siphoning liquids from one container to another works? No, I don't think they could. $10 from Orlor. Pharms. There's a rock that is resting on the ground. You take a shovel and dig a hole under the rock without disturbing the rock. Does the rock fall or stay there floating in the air? Magic. €2 from Herman Totip. Omegadding. Yeah, indeed. $5 from John Rapp. Why do mine tunnels collapse? Why does ground collapse? £5 from Dan Robinson. On behalf of the rest of the UK, I apologise for this waste of a good wank. Oofed. €5 from Mr. Present 99. Okay, I changed my opinion from before. The face cam is more interesting than this debate. OMG, this guy is stupid. You convinced them. Well done, Brainy. €5 from Herman Totip. If you have a triangle with sides 5 meters, another one 9.84 feet, and another one 137.8 inches, what are the internal angles? US $1.99 from Stephen Steen. That's not a photo, that's a painting. $1.99 from Stephen Steen. Easy win by Faroah, not even close. $79.99 Australian dollars from Stephen York. Teaching children about transgender is not damaging. Children are highly accepting and only damaged by the way they use the porn by their parents to claim they'll be damaged by the information. Anyone who uses the argument is a cunt. Absolutely nothing wrong about teaching the fact that there is transgender to children at all. And $2 from Rangerman 9404. At Team Skeptic, how many dingers did you break? He breaks all the dingers all the time. So yeah, I'll just check there's no more come in. Oh, there's a couple. $1.99 Stephen Steen. Tommy can't click a link. And $5 Australian dollars from John Rapp on the natural resting point. Why do mine tunnels collapse? Why do ground collapse? Who is BM Furball? BM Furball is amazing. Just YouTube him. Any final thoughts?
He's a better moderator. That's what I know. That's what I've been told.
Any final thoughts on what happened tonight, Brainy?
Well, I was biting my tongue the entire time to the point where it's bloody, and I didn't do the greatest job of it at times. But beyond that, it's back just kind of what I said. I heard a lot of the typical, like, well, here's my evidence, but yours is garbage, and my evidence is just like this guy told me one time that he saw the Earth look flat.
Wait, he had some evidence.
And meanwhile,
Did I miss that?
yeah, well, exactly. Like I saw a picture one time, and it looked kind of flat. Looked a little flat, but that's my evidence.
Except here's a picture.
It was the same kind of, yeah. Well, it's exactly what you were about to say. It's like, here's my evidence, and then what's your evidence? And you say, well, I know people that do this, and we've done that, and we've got all this, and it's like fake. It's all fake. Fucking fake. Everything's made up. The world is fake.
And I had to go fuck my mum, apparently. That was, I think his strongest argument from the debate was, go fuck your mum.
Did he actually say that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Was that at the end? I didn't catch that.
He started to get angry about 3/4 of the way through. There was definitely a go fuck your
mum.
Well,
that's when he started getting. Okay. He called me a bitch at the end. He said, "I'm talking to Craig, bitch."
Talking to Craig, you bitch.
It was funny. He was getting pretty irate at that point, and and that's when I was doing the worst at that point because I was getting annoyed with him too. But that's when I probably should have stayed out the most because obviously it helps him stay calm.
Enhanced
but,
X.
You're calm better than. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Enhanced X says you need to have a judge and call a winner after these debates. So how about we just let the audience vote? Say vote 1 if I won the debate, and vote 2 if Faroah Pharms won the debate. He did run away also.
See, don't feel so bad, Faroah. He can't even talk tonight. He's been drinking clearly. You're right. In fact, Faroah might have been right the whole time.
Team, I'll give you another link if that one's not working. 2 secs.
Get Team in here for a minute. Where's my favorite not Twinkie anymore? I got nice teeth.
Ooh. There you go, Team. I've sent you another link.
And really, like most of the Earth is made of iron. Most of asteroids are made of iron. Of course, when they come down, they turn into steel. They get hot.
I'm seeing
they
a lot
literally,
of ones.
like you cut them in half. I see one. Have you seen what, Craig? Craig, have you actually held a meteorite in your hand, like a proper meteor that's come down from space?
No, I haven't actually. I've got a bit of volcanic.
The guy
rock.
I know.
Yeah,
the guy I know
a lot
collects
of
them,
ones.
and when you see the rock on the outside, it'll look like a regular rock, except the way that they look for them is use a first, and you find them because they're very magnetic, because your magnet will stick to it like a son of a bitch. And then when you cut them, and once you suspect it's a meteor and everything, you cut them in half. You should see the images of them online. Everybody go look. They're straight like shine steel in the middle. It's literally like you took a piece of steel and cut it in half. They're like literally just shiny.
Hey, welcome, Team Skeptic. How you doing, bud?
Hey, he's here.
No, I'm doing good. I listened into most of that.
Thoughts?
He was going, "Shut the fuck up, Brainy." The whole time.
I don't get it. I mean, I don't get why they keep being brought back on to say the exact same thing that they never will provide any evidence. I mean, the dude just went around saying natural processes, energy of natural processes, energy of natural processes, consciousness. Proof, please, of any of that bullshit, please, any of it. If there's one single piece of proof, I'll start believing it. But I need the proof to be irrefutable, and I need it to be repeatable. I can't just hear this, oh, it's the natural processes. There was something he kept saying. Okay, so he kept referring to something like consciousness. Consciousness is something that they're trying to use in quantum mechanics and quantum physics to say, oh, the world is all related to consciousness because of this observer effect. You should have used that against him. You should have said, what if because he kept saying, well, it's a conscious observer. He knows he's moving the rock over a well, so he knows that he's introducing more energy to the system. Oh, you could have ended all that shit with the Schrodinger's cat equation, saying, well, what if that process is a total quantum process where there's no consciousness involved?
You think that would have worked?
Why will the rock fall? He's got to explain where the energy came from if there's no conscious observer to do it, to put the energy into the system. I mean, that's just one of the things
I did think of
I'm just tired of these
route.
guys. They're pointless people. Flat earthers are fucking stupid. If you're a flat earther out there, just know I'm calling you out right now. You're fucking stupid and you're a fucking idiot. And if I hadn't broke my goddamn dinger last fucking live stream, I'd be breaking it right fucking now, because that was painful to listen to.
Yeah.
And yeah, Brainy, you probably shouldn't have interjected so much as a moderator.
Sorry,
since you were asking
guys.
about no, because y'all were asking about it, so I just wanted to put it in. It's that's one reason why I don't really like. Well, here's the thing. You're right. You're not wrong in what you said. You were right, and that's the problem. Is we know we're right. We know the information. We want to tell them the information. So then we feel like there's a need to interject. I felt the same way when I moderated them. I was just like, wow, I can't do this because I can't not speak when I know the answer. I want to say the answer. And no, it's not your fault though. It's not your fault.
No, I know what you mean.
And Robert Legere says, "How's my fucking day going?" My fucking day, it's 100 degrees outside. I've been sitting in a goddamn car, and this is what I come home to. So I'm sorry that I'm a bit agitated at the fucking idiot flat earther, but I am a bit agitated at the idiot flat earther.
Yeah,
that's what was happening to me, and that's
I'm irritated at all the idiot flat earthers.
Pretty good, to be honest. You do a great job, Craig, because I'm punching walls over here with my mute button on.
I've literally
so the other thing is it's hard to have a moderator. It's hard to have a moderator when the moderator doesn't have control of the mute button. You know that's where the real
the only other thing. People were asking me to mute sometimes.
If a moderator is supposed to be muting people, is supposed to be controlling the conversation. So it's hard to do that when the moderator doesn't have control of the mute button. That's not really your fault. It's not FTFE's fault. It's not Faroah's fault. It's just the way that
a couple of the guys are saying
work out with how we work.
They said in my defense, they said he was really, really hard to listen to that guy. And the next guy said it's far from the worst mod I've watched. But it doesn't matter. I'll watch BM Furball. I'll use that as a practice moment. And as long as you guys give me another chance,
I don't think you were a bad moderator. No, I don't.
I understand. It's so hard to not jump in and want to have a go at them. I just missed a super chat there. $5 Australian from John Rapp. Thought my first had disappeared, and I'm subbed to BM Furball. Sarcasm. Yeah, everyone should sub to BM Furball, most definitely.
See my new background here?
Yeah, checkmate flat earthers.
Checkmate flat earthers. See, there it is. It's the tops of the globe model there.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man, I have some really, really, really cool things that Wildman Fujiyami and I are working on right now.
Nice.
We've literally built a set for my VR that has on the floor there is a huge flat Earth model, and it's fucking badass, bro. I can't wait till it gets perfected so I can
if I have a green screen like this, does that mean that you could put me on that set?
You gotta be at least this cool to ride on. Oh, we can't see, but I have my hands up above my head. No, I don't know how we. I don't know yet how we're gonna be able. We're gonna be able to bring things in. We do know that there is a multiplayer.
Next, month or so, I'll be able to join.
Well, see, that's the cool thing is that the program we use does have a multiplayer thing, so you will be able to come in, but you have to have a VR set to do so. I can't green screen somebody in because it just wouldn't. You'd always be in 2 dimensions as we were all in 3. It look weird.
I've got new stuff coming as well. I've been teaching myself Adobe Premiere and After Effects over the past couple of days, and I can now create virtual holograms in my hands, which is how I'm going to be presenting my videos that I debunk.
That's cool.
Funny. I'm
that's really
neat. I had done the same shit with a flat earther one time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ruin who it was, but it was like it was like an all blue hologram that was it was still in 2 dimensions. I couldn't get it in 3 dimensions, but I mean, I probably could, but I'm just not that proficient on it. But
were you able to do 3 dimensions?
There's a lot of shit,
or was it 2 dimensions?
Yeah, no, I can make it turn on all 3 axes. So when it tracks my hand in the program in After Effects, and then you can make it so the orientation changes and everything as well. So I'm going to be playing off
After Effects is fucking badass.
Yeah.
You might have to see, because I was looking at After Effects, but then when I was looking online, they said that Hit Film Express can actually do almost everything that After Effects can do. So I was just afraid of spending $30
keep believing that.
Mate, honestly,
Well, that's what
the thing
it was
is
a
with
third-party program.
the thing what I've noticed
That's what
already
I thought.
with
Yeah.
Adobe over the other things is there's so many add-ons and stuff that people have created on their own. So if I want a 3D model of something,
Oh.
like I can just literally Google 3D model for After Effects or whatever I want, and someone will have a catalog of models they've just created that you can just import into the program and then alter however you want. And say
So you think it's worth it for the After Effects?
yeah. So say I'm editing
Hell
something
yeah.
on my timeline in
Hell
Premiere,
yeah.
right? And it's an image that I want to come up, and I want the image to look different. I can then click on that image and open it up in, say, Photoshop, do all the editing that I want in Photoshop and save it, and it just goes straight back into the program from where it was. So it's all integrated with everything. It's amazing.
I'm going to be honest.
But of course, the
I
whole
got to give
suite for
credit to
everything
the
is
Godfather. I got to give credit to the Godfather, who's the one that put me onto this shit. Tau Ceti Alpha, big shout out to you. If you haven't watched Flat Earth Full Retard Mode, I believe it was episode number 33, was the last one. If you haven't watched that already,
Yeah, I watched that last
go
night.
fucking watch it because you're fucking missing out.
Tao,
It's
you're in the
fucking
chat.
amazing.
Please
I watched
put your link
part
to
of
episode 33 for everyone to go and watch after
Yeah,
this.
he's in there.
Yeah.
He's in there.
And also, yeah, Tao, if you've got any tips for using After Effects and stuff, please let me know. I've got it looking pretty good. I'll show you what I've done. If you've got any suggestions, then please.
So
because
Tao said he knows his After
yeah.
Effects?
Yeah,
That's good to
he's
know.
the man.
I'll have to harass him.
Nah, he don't know. He just told me to use it. No, he doesn't know. He just told me to use it.
That's right, eh?
It'd take me longer to render than his beast of a computer, that's for sure.
Well, does he have a
Oh,
monster?
yeah. He shared me his specs. Whew.
Yeah.
I built my buddy. My buddy got a big grant for school from the government because he was military, and he gave me his budget, and I looked at it and went, "Holy fuck, let's build you a monster." And so, like, when I was done with it, he's like, "So how is it?" I'm like, "I'm jealous. I'm handing it to you, you son of a bitch." Gave him his computer, and it's a
Oh,
beast. what I
Man
built.
Devil in the chat, yeah, you just rewound to watch the Rage Quit. Oh, you can believe that Rage Quit is going up as its own clip. You can 100% believe that is happening. Because that was a glorious Rage Quit. Thank you, Faroah. They don't realize that they literally like write our material for us, right?
Well, like, where does the rock come from if it's not coming from space? I already have an idea for a plane that flies around the world, just rolling fucking rocks out of it.
Yeah.
It's like, right here, drop one on England today. Jesus Christ.
But I think we're going to shut it down for tonight. Team, thanks for joining in at the last minute. I know you've been busy today, man. Brainy, thank you
Yeah, sorry I
very
couldn't
much.
be here earlier.
That's cool. What you got? You said you had a video that was coming out soon.
Yeah, I had a video. It's all right, guys. So we're still working on the face, the being on camera stuff. I don't have the greatest equipment, but I'm working with what I have. And for some reason, it keeps resetting my camera every time my computer goes off. So I didn't have the exact same settings set for the first half of the video as I did for the second half of the video, and it's just such a tad bit off that I could probably get away with putting it out and nobody would realize, except for a few of you. A few of you are so fucking astute that you would absolutely notice it, and that's why I won't put it out. So I'm going to have to go back and re-record everything tonight so that it's perfect for tomorrow. It sucks being a perfectionist.
Yeah, no,
but
I know.
I've made mistakes in the past that are inexcusable, so
I've
I'm
done
not
a
doing
bunch
it
of
again.
videos where the camera work has been blurry when I had to use my backup camera and stuff, and no more. There's not going to be anything out anymore that isn't perfect. And if people see a mistake that I've made, please scold me for it, because I want to give you guys the best that I can. But yeah, all right. So make sure you subscribe to Team. He'll have a new video out once he's re-recorded it. Brainy Beaver just released.
Yeah, just crossed 19. Hold on, 1 second. I just crossed 19,000 subscribers. I'm within 1,000 of 20. Come on, guys, let's do it. 20K.
Congratulations. That's
Let's
amazing.
go.
That's it, man.
That's amazing.
I know we're
Man,
getting
I
close.
met you when you
man.
were
We're
at
getting
8.
close.
You're
That's just
doing
something
great.
Yeah, I never thought it would blow up as much as it has over the past 6 months, I guess. I think it took me 13 months to get to 10K, and it took me about 5.5 months to get from 10 to, well,
19.
assuming that I get it within the next fucking 20 days or so. It's that'll be, it's been amazing. I feel blessed. Thank you guys, everybody.
Congratulations, absolutely. I'm still blown away that I'm at 15,714, so I'm on the way to 16,000, and like Team says, it's amazing to have the support of you guys. We really do appreciate it.
And I keep sending these two memes of me dragging behind a speedboat and holding on for dear life as I skid through the water.
Your content is brilliant, and the algorithm will pick it up at some point. Brainy Beaver just released a video about his season 3 that he's going to be doing, but he also released a video about D Marble's cribs, which was absolutely amazing. So make sure you guys check that out as well. Tomorrow,
thanks for having me.
No worries, you're always welcome. Do better. Tomorrow I will have out my new channel trailer, and if I finished editing it, a goodbye video to the name Fight the Flat Earth, and then I will be starting my new series, which is called Stupid Humans, which will focus on other stupidity apart from the Flat Earth, which my patrons will be voting on the topic every fortnight what I'm going to be doing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Brainy Beaver. Thank you, Faroah Pharms, for rage quitting like a little girl. That was fantastic. Thank you, team, for coming on. Remember, guys, stupidity is not right. Fight the Flat Earth. Fight the flat, fight the flat, fight the flat, fight the